Alrighty. Alrighty, is anyone there? Did we get anyone? Just starting the stream, did anyone join? I guess some people might have joined. If you're there, just say cow or something like that. Let me just check everything, should be fine. Yeah, there are a few things I would like to try, but that's okay. And then we got that thing. Yeah, nice, okay, cool. Give me a moment. Nice, 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 awesome. Let's reduce this volume a bit, maybe. Nice. Alrighty. Okay, let's get to it. So today, what are we gonna do today? Today we're gonna be working on a WebSocket thing. On a just setting up a WebSocket server that we have, our Docker. So let's kind of, yeah, this I will not mark fully as done, even though it kind of is. I need to do more review on that. Replace cron jobs by bool and queue. Yeah, let's actually say that this is technically done. So that's fine. So there's technically there's yeah, you could say that this is the task we want to do. I'll just rename it. So let's just say something like this. Set up finish setting up the WebSocket server. Actually, it's a Webhook server using the provided image. So we're gonna do that, and then we'll do something like that, I suppose. Okay, let's kind of specify a little bit today what it is that we want to do. So learn how the image works and what we can configure and how. Test the webhook server locally. Try testing locally by hitting it up from GitHub. Maybe use some tunnel or something. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we can do today, I suppose. And this is not really security, it's more of a, let's say, feature. Then we'll also need to do, yeah, we'll see. All right, cool, great. So I guess we can get started. Give me 1 second. All right, so let's research a little bit. So if we go to our orchestrator, if we go to Docker Compose in this case and search for Webhook, we're going to be using this image. So let's research a little bit about that image. I don't know if and then we have the hooks JSON. I guess that's more or less everything, right? I guess that's really all that there is to this. All right, not our problem for now. So essentially, I guess that's really all that there is to this. Yeah, so we can do this. Now after building your Docker image with blah, 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 you can start the container running. So I guess the only really thing about this image is what we kind of already have. We have webhook and then hooks JSON, right? And we actually have that JSON already here. And this is kind of execute command. Command working directory. So I guess we'll do not need this. Deployment trigger successfully, trigger rule, value ref set master, and then okay. So let's maybe use AI a little bit and let's just research this slightly a bit, right? This image, because they don't seem to have any documentation, which is a little bit ironic. So let's just say give me a crash course on that image. So basically, this is an image. I suppose it is just a webhook. Yeah, it's okay. Webhook is a lightweight incoming webhook server to run shell commands. Yeah, so actually this most likely is Rugs. Hey friend, how are you doing? So this is actually the image. So Webhook is a lightweight configurable tool written in Go that allows you to easily create HTTP endpoints, hooks on your server, which you can use to execute configured commands. You can also pass data from HTTP requests such as headers, payload, or query variables. For example, if you're using GitHub or Bitbucket, you can just use Webhook to set up a hook that runs a redeploy script for your project on your staging server whenever you push changes to the master. Yeah, that's exactly what we want, right? That's what we're using it for. If you use Mattermost or Slack, you can set up outgoing webhook. So I don't know what Mattermost is. Interesting. Okay. Actually, I think I've used this hook deck recently for something. Let me just... Good, man. Very good. I've been to the beach. We live here by the beach in Ama in Copenhagen. So just been there with my son, played with him for 2-3 hours. Then my wife joined us and we went for some just croissants and coffee. and now I'm for a couple of hours with you guys here. Shoots them. Hey, friend. What's up? So the plan for now, at least for this stream, is just kind of setting up, right? So all of the tasks, since I came back streaming a little bit and spending time with you guys, a lot of these tasks, some of them I have marked as done. They are kind of done roughly. I will, once everything is kind of roughly done, then I'll again not stream for a couple of days and then finalize it, because again, this is a Udemy course that I'm trying to make here, right? So I need to also write. Cedric, let's talk after the stream, man. If you have the time, let's jump on Discord after this. And thank you everybody for writing something. It's always Juka Pauline. Hi, howdy as well. So today we're gonna just set up the Webhook server and try, as soon as the stream is done, maybe what 2.5 hours. How do I typically stream? I don't know. So that's what we're gonna do today. I have some ideas, right? And essentially, when GitHub hits our Webhook server, right? So in today's in today's stream, what we really need to do is just to visualize it, and let's see how we can test that locally, right? But essentially, today we'll just try to say, hey, well, we can do this in many ways, but ideally we can test it, let's say, with GitHub. So for example, something like this, right? Like we push a commit to GitHub, and then, like GitHub hits our Webhook server. I'm using two tools. So this is Draw. So I've been using Draw.io for many years. I still do. This is the latest novelty I'm trying. It's not a new tool. This one is also. So you have really two tools. You have Draw, you see, or you have. So I typically use Draw.io. Right now, this is called Diagrams. They've been bought. And then you have Draw, and both of them exist as plugins for VS Code. So this is Draw. Well, the thing is, I don't know why messages are. The thing is, your goal when it comes to your IDE, whatever your IDE is, Vim, Vim or NeoVim or VS Code or Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or millions of them, you are lucky if you can centralize your workflow as much as possible within one tool, right? And this is, I think, where VS Code won a lot, because it didn't win because it's like VS Code has been heavily inspired by Emacs, right? But you can nearly find any extension for it, which makes it really awesome, right? So that's why it's important when building any, right? And that is kind of the ironic part of Vim and NeoVim as well. Yes, you can configure them almost to your liking, but it takes a long time, right? And then it's also oftentimes very difficult to keep things updated, right? Okay, so this is kind of what we want to do today. So we push a commit to GitHub, for example, or any other repository. We need to make this agnostic of the Git repository that people are using. And then GitHub calls our Webhook server. And we probably, because this is going to be running locally, we probably need to use some local tunnel, right? Like, for example, either local tunnel or like, what was it, man? Like my brain just, what was the, what was it? Yeah, like, ng-rock, yeah. So we might just spawn, but actually, yeah. But it's very important that we put, so one thing is this, right? We have to make sure that, so this is our Webhook server. So of course, we're going to have to put our webhook server behind our reverse proxy, because everything is behind our reverse proxy. So here we're going to have our Traefik reverse proxy, and then we're going to kind of have a little bit. So we want to already validate. So the idea here, hear me out. So we're going to have to obviously protect our webhook server. So only services that are hitting it with some secret or whatever can access it, right? And that's what we can use our reverse proxy for here in the middle, right? Like here we can already say, yeah, no, you can't access this, right? So instead of hitting this guy and then this guy saying you can't access me, we can use our reverse proxy. So we're not going to be exposing our webhook server directly. We will simply say, hey, this is our entry point always, like for all of our services. So there's no reason for it to not to be a proxy here as well, right? So we'll make sure that we do some labels on the webhook server or whatever. We'll see. I don't actually know exactly fully how to do it now, but in 10 minutes I will know once we do it. So that is kind of the plan, right, for today, I guess. And actually, if I go here, if I go to the library, we can search here maybe for, we can find I just want to see if it's there. I actually have no idea. Yeah, for sure, man. I just want us to catch up and stuff, and then see what it is that you want to do and how interested you are. And then I need to sit again and just, so yeah. So for today, it's definitely enough. Definitely. It's not going to take us long because I don't think that you and I ever spoke via audio, right? So let's just, of course, do that first, right? And then having having the webhook server so again, it's very difficult to follow. Maybe this stream a little bit can be difficult because it's a lot of different things we're doing here. F more on 13, hi. But in today's stream, I'm setting up a webhook server, which is going to be used for our CI and CD pipeline, for our continuous integration and deployment. So when we merge something new to one of our repositories in this infrastructure for startups, we will want GitHub or any other GitLab, Bitbucket, whatever you're using. You're going to hit the webhook server running on our host, and our host is going to say, oh, there's a change somewhere, let me pull new changes, and then redeploys. I mean, we are full, and this stream is truly full stack, right? Because you can say that this is DevOps, it's true, but that is full stack, right? People think that full stack is building an API and a UI. That's not full stack. That is still front-end, right? So if you truly want to say, I'm doing full stack, that is a full stack, end to end, right? All the way from planning to observability. So actually most people who claim that they're full stack, they're actually not full stack, which is perfectly fine. I don't blame them, because it's not me who has the right to define this role. It's rather the community and business and the business world. But if you want to truly say what a full stack is, well, the full stack, right? So full stack isn't just I can build, an API, copy paste a function that gets called when some string gets right. So I would say that infrastructure is incredibly important, and I'm not saying that the person has to know it in detail. You can obviously see I don't have every single information in my head. That would be silly, but having a good grasp of it is crucial, and that's why I want to record this course, at least to share some. Absolutely agreed with you, for sure. Okay, so let's continue. So now, when we all hopefully know, Jenkins is very difficult. When I was working at Airtame maybe 8 years ago, we managed our own Jenkins internally in-house. Not Yossi, hey friend, good to see you. And that was painful. So Jenkins is probably the most comprehensive CI/CD tool out there, but it can also be. This course is going to be on Udemy. So this course is going to be released on Udemy, and a lot of my Twitch viewers are going to get it for free. So that's the idea. I don't know what Qualify honestly is. Let's see. I have no idea what that is. Qualify. Nah, no, nothing to do with this. No, it's a good question. It's a good question, but nothing to do with this. I actually am. What I'm doing has nothing to do with. I'm not building an infrastructure product, right? So just don't miss. I'm not. This, I would always be against these types of things, right? I'm just doing a full infrastructure with the most common tools that you would solve them. So Grafana, Prometheus, Loki, Promptail, Container Advisor, Fastifier, reactjs, reverse proxy, Traefik, unified firewall, and a bunch of these things. So I'm not creating a new product. I'm doing the infrastructure the way that the infrastructure is done. All of these abstractions are opposite of what I'm going to record in this course, right? All of these abstractions are very painful because they're still abstractions. So we are not making any abstraction here. We're just using around 20, 25 different Docker containers to achieve the proper infrastructure. So I'm not saying this is bad or anything like that. Please don't keep me. But this is still some abstraction. Somebody has still taken and done something and then abstracted stuff out, right? So I'm not building any product at all. I'm just doing infrastructure with the most common tools to achieve infrastructure, right? Like Docker Compose and Docker. Maybe one day we're gonna extend it with Docker Swarm. Of course, not Kubernetes. Kubernetes is not necessary in 99.9% of cases, but the idea is to of course do a proper infrastructure, but not to abstract it away, just to do it with existing. Will you use Open Telemetry? Yeah, for sure. Well, we already have. I mean, that part is already done. Once I start recording, we're using, obviously, Prometheus. Actually, we have messed something up. We're using Grafana, and we have a bunch of awesome dashboards. We're using Promptail and Loki and stuff. So yes, absolutely. Traefik. This is our reverse proxy, right? So of course, observability, alerting, and logging is the essence of every product. You need to have this done. You need to have this done properly. Alerting as well, right? Yeah. So, what authentication do you recommend for cross-platform application? JSON Web Tokens for sure. Like keep in mind, there's a lot of good questions, so I need to answer it. So what you have mentioned there, F Moron. I'm sorry, you have a very strange name, so I have to call you Moron. You chose that name. Authentication, like OAuth, the service that you're mentioning, OAuth is just a third-party service that's still using JSON Web Tokens, but these are two different things, right? You can implement authentication yourself, or you can use third-party service to deal with authentication for you. In most cases, if you're an established business, you will use Propel Auth, OAuth, like third-party stuff, because you don't want to deal with infrastructure like that, because it's very difficult, right? It's actually not difficult because we're going to be doing it in this course. I'm not using any third-party services for that. But if you're an established business, you will probably, like if you are a serious enterprise company, at Dream Data we're using Propel Auth. OAuth is still Auth0, is still the most popular service, right? But the biggest problem with this, like if you're building platform like I am, like programmer network platform, right? You can see here, I have implemented all of this manually through JBTs, and just I used LinkedIn API, Twitch API, and GitHub API. So I've done this myself, right? Why did I do it myself? Well, we already have around 1,500 users signed up here, programmers on our platform, right? And you can see actually when you go to pricing, let's say on Auth0, you can see Auth0 has up to 25. Actually, they have bumped this up a lot. But once you kind of start with their calculator, how many monthly active users you have, you can actually see here that this number starts growing, right? So it just, oh, you're from Argentina. Got it. Okay. So anyway, so when you're making these decisions, they have a business impact, not a technical impact per se so much, right? So your question as a CTO or a tech lead or a team lead will be, do we want to host passwords ourselves and deal with encryption and cryptography and stuff? Or do we want to pay a little bit more money and then offshore this to a third-party service? And then in most cases, if you're an established business, third-party service is going to be cheaper. But if you're building a social platform, as I am, besides these couple of streams now, then it's not cheaper because I mean, again, social login is very simple to implement, Yuko, right? Like, for example, here I have implemented social login for Programmer Network in 1 day, right? So I think people make it harder to maybe people make it to be harder than it actually is, right? Like, it's not difficult. It's just the implementation is the easy part. It's just like once you're storing passwords yourself and sensitive data, you just have more responsibility on your back to ensure that that's secure, right? So you have to encrypt them and do various types of things, which you do anyway, right? So it's just like, do I want to mentally think about this, or do I don't want to think about this, right? But implementing social login, whatever, that should be reasonable, simple for anyone, at least from a mid-level to senior developer should be, especially today with the AI. I mean, anyone, like, when you go to Programmer Network, to the platform that this stream is typically about, this is all implemented by me, right? So there's no third-party services, right? Or anything like that. You know, you can just click one of these buttons, and I used the JVT library in my API to essentially, I hit the service, they respond back to me, they call the callback, right? So you provide a callback URL, they inject some stuff, you validate it, etc., 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 right? But it's still work, and it's still something to maintain. So that's why, of course, as a reasonable leader, technical leader, or whatever, you need to make these decisions because they have a huge impact to your business, right? At Dream Data, where I work, we're using Propellot, and I know the CEO of this company. His name is Andrew. I spoke to him many times because they're still a Y Combinator startup. So whenever I need some help with some of the things we're doing, I just hit him up on Slack, and he's very responsive. So this is what we use, and it's business to business, which the company where I work, and it's actually a lot cheaper than than Auth0. So yeah. But great questions. Awesome stuff. Okay, cool. Let's let's make sure people don't get completely bored. Okay. Code Monkey.js, absolutely, man. The thing is, I built this whole UI library. Actually, I have even open sourced it. So actually, the Programmer Network, the whole UI is built by me. And as far as I kind of saw, it's either love or hate. Some people, I love this UI because I'm a minimalist. I literally asked myself, how can I build a platform with minimal amount of details? Because in majority of platforms, when you go to them, they put all random shit in all places just so the platform looks that there's something happening, right? But yes, people did complain. Good thing is you can build your own theme. So I don't know if you know, but I have built something called Theme Builder. So if you don't like the color profile, you can say, okay, let me make this color profile red. I want the background to be white, and I want text to be black, and then you save, right? So now you have your own theme, right? So kind of, yeah. But doing UI is especially when you are doing the whole thing yourself alone, right? It's very difficult. Sure, pretty sure advertising will be paid because it stands. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, of course. Is the website mobile friendly? Of course. I mean, you can also, yeah, of course. If you're referring to Programmer Network, of course it is, man. I mean, I use it mostly for mobile. Of course it is. Of course it is. It has to be, right? It has a very solid mobile experience, right? Does it? No, it doesn't. No. Okay, great. Did you make it a progressive web app? I did, yes. And then I removed it. The biggest problem with progressive web apps, right, is that The biggest problem with the progressive web apps and service workers, right, is that service workers have a very hard cache. And even when you implement like certain methods, so when you implement a progressive web app and when you push a new change, right, you have to kill the previous service worker and you need to replace it with a new one because previous service worker has cached your JavaScript files, etc., etc. So it's a very hard caching. And that problem on many websites is very difficult, especially if you're at the stage where when I stream, sometimes I'm going to deploy the same code like 15 times in the same day during the stream, right? So that is the only downside of having a progressive web app that gets updated very frequently, right? Is that different browsers update service worker differently. And usually what you do, you have to show a little window to the user saying, there's a new version of this app, please refresh. But for example, I have installed the app on my phone as a progressive web app. And it's actually very awesome. So you can see you start it like this, and you can see it's like a mobile type of experience. So you can actually do that on mobile already with Programmer Network. And keep in mind, because I'm not a typical streamer, I don't stream much, and I don't have much time to work on this, we will also deploy this as a progressive web app to Android store and to iOS store. So for example, you can use PVA Builder, and this PVA Builder is using official Android's binary called bubble wrap. And this bubble wrap essentially wraps your PVA into the kind of native type of wrapper. So you can literally, you can publish your like web app to both Android store and iOS store, which just shows the power of JavaScript ecosystem, especially at the time when you're alone building something. There's no chance that the single person who is working part-time on something will build 3 code bases for 3 different platforms, right? So with progressive web apps, you can have your web app and then 2 major app stores, mobile app stores at once with the same code base. So that's why, of course, I also made it mobile friendly, almost mobile first to say, because once I have the time, I'll also deploy these things to official stores, and then people will be able to find it better, etc. Right? And of course, I have also implemented my own notification system there with also push-pull and a lot of other things. So it's pretty awesome. Actually, if you go here, if you go to notification, you'll see there's push notifications. So we have a little push server, and then we also have email notifications. But anyway, let's get back to our course. That's off topic. Hopefully, very soon, once I finish the course, we'll get back to building Programmer Network, because there's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of bugs to fix, and hopefully Cedric don't drop the database. He wants to join the team and help out, so I'm actually very excited about that. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's now learn a little bit about this webhook, right? So just for the context of those who are here and who will stay to watch me for a little while, thank you for that, by the way. It's always fun to have people around, otherwise I wouldn't be streaming. So we're gonna use this webhook. So we're gonna use this webhook HTTP server written in Go, and we're gonna use it like this using the Docker image, and we're gonna use it as our webhook server in general. The first use case is triggering our host to pull new changes when we deploy our changes to master. And we're going to use this thing, right? So as I said a little while ago, let's say GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, whatever a customer might end up using, is going to hit our reverse proxy. Our reverse proxy is going to validate that who's calling our webhook server, in fact, is person that knows how to call it, meaning we're going to validate some, probably we're going to validate some like env here, some secret, and then we're going to hit the webhook server, and our webhook server is going to say, oh, somebody has changed something in a repository. Let's pull a new image from GitHub or whatever, from some image repository, and then let's stop existing one, and then let's deploy a new one, right? So that is the idea. And I've just asked the AI now to give me a little bit of what is it called? What did I say? I said it. I told it to give me a just a quick start or whatever you call it. So as you can see here, let's just. I need to learn a little bit, to be honest, right? So yes, and this is how we write these hooks, and this is really amazing. It's very declarative, right? I like these declarative things. So because it's just a webhook server, right? We just define these kind of JSON type of. I would call that these are declarative things, right? So we say there's some hook with some ID. I want it to execute this command inside of this directory, and I want you to pass these arguments to the CLI, right? So pass, you know, this to bin echo, right? So as you can see, unique identifier for your webhook. Nice, that's what we need always. The command or script to execute when the webhook is triggered. In our case, this is probably going to be like Docker compose down some service, whatever, the service that we have to spawn a new container for from the new image. The working directory from where the command will run, how to pass arguments from the webhook request payload into your command, right? And then we're doing this already. This is the default port that this webhook server runs on. And then here we are already mounting this in our Docker compose inside of our orchestrator, right? We're already mounting this hooks JSON, and this is our single source of truth of where we create our webhooks and what they actually do, right? So that's what we're gonna be playing now in this server. And then we're gonna be testing this. So maybe now I'm gonna, we're gonna kind of SSH into our, bear with me. Okay. So, okay, but yes. All right, that's amazing. Okay, so let's just say that is amazing and it makes total sense. I would like whatsoever to put my webhook server behind my Traefik reverse proxy and do the, I don't know, secret validation on the reverse proxy before the webhook server is hit. In simple words, a service that's calling my webhook server will have to contain some secret, so the webhook is protected from unauthorized access or whatever. I'll also eventually try to allow access to my webhook server only from, example, I don't know, like GitHub IP ranges, and of course Cloudflare IP ranges, because my entire infrastructure anyway is already behind Cloudflare, right? Yeah, well, the goal is to, of course, I mean, we don't want to be reinventing the wheel, right? We're not going to be writing a whole entire new webhook server, because that would take a long time, right? I mean, this webhook server we are using, so of course we have our own API, and this has nothing to do with our own API, right? Our own API is a client-side API that's going to be a central place, right? Wow, thank you for the 71 free hours on Codecraft. Amazing. Okay, so you guys are clicking the links. Nice. That's awesome. All right, so you can see this is what we're kind of going to be doing now with our Traefik, right? So we're going to smack in some. So this is very interesting, right? And very good to know, just FYI. That's why I love Traefik reverse proxy. I used to use Nginx for many years, maybe even decades, maybe even 2 decades. I've switched recently to Traefik because I'm also doing some work with Kubernetes. And Traefik, in my opinion, right now, it's because it's cloud first and Kubernetes first also is. So you can see here with our labels, we can really configure this very simply. So here we say, hey, what is the host of your webhook server? We actually already have this done, right? We're going to have some middleware. Username is now lurking in the shadows. Beautiful. I need to fix that. And then Traefik, HTTP middleware is IP filtering, blah, blah. So this is essentially, I don't know if IP filter is a default built-in middleware. Let me actually check. I don't remember. Traefik IP filter. IP whitelist, exactly. So actually, so you can see we can comma separate, accept requests from defined IPs. So fundamentally, okay. So we're going to take a look at that. Yes. Oh, so nice. Beautiful. Okay. So let's go and start doing this. So if I go to my development one, I should have a webhook. And as you can see here, let me zoom in a little bit so you guys see better. As you can see, we already have my... So as you can see, I have 4 Docker Compose files. 2 of them are... One is the base one. One has most of the development-related stuff. And then I have 2 more for labels. So these labels have they are merged very, the Docker Compose uses append merge, right? So these labels get mixed up all together and then it doesn't work properly. So as you can see, I have development labels. Let me just do this. Development labels, blah, blah. So we have 4 Docker Compose files. And it's really, really awesome setup. But yeah, you'll hopefully watch that in the course when courses is released. Okay. So webhook local, great. Entry point web, very good as well. Now the only question per se, but we'll see. And actually, yeah, this is using IP whitelist. Let's actually just grab this thing from here. So this is where the port that's exposed, and then I'll just smack this temporarily here, but we're gonna disable it, right? And let me just check this middleware. Do I webhook secret check? Because I don't actually know. GitHub. Oh, I see. GitHub webhook middleware. Let's actually see it because this is a custom plugin. GitHub webhook middleware is middleware plugin for Traefik, which validates the signature in the X hub signature 200 header. Built-in middleware or something we have to customly build. I see. So essentially, we have to build this middleware either ourselves or ideally, I mean, find something that already works. Let's actually do some due diligence in this. It hasn't been updated in 3 years, which doesn't have. Let's just read this webhook here and go. So let's just see what the person did. Yeah, this is literally what we need. Yeah. Yeah, not really. So we're not gonna be sending any JVTs or anything. So this is a little bit, yeah, maybe a little bit too much. We don't necessarily need that, even though we could kind of do it. It's just this now couples us very much to GitHub, and that's not what I want, right? But this is very interesting, right? Because our API does have GitHub client there, we could in fact send some sort of a JVT from GitHub, then validate that against our client in the API. But no, that's not what I want to do. So no, okay. Okay, well, maybe, just maybe for a little while, let's just let's do the security last. So we're gonna say to do validate the secret token. Scorp, hey buddy, how you doing? Okay, so now let's see what we want to do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where, like, I want to teach the infrastructure, right? But not in an opinionated way, right? So at least, of course, it's opinionated when it comes to certain services, but like, I don't want to couple it necessarily just to this webhook. Really should be able to receive message from any service that to tell it, hey, redeploy from here. So I think it would be important to kind of offer more than just GitHub, even though, yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do, let me just think a little bit. So of course, the fundamental and very important thing here is going to be the mount points, right? The volumes, because we're going to be mounting something from our host, right? So in our case here, this would be my computer, right? So, right. So in this context, of course, we don't actually have that now, but this would be like something that exists kind of here, right? And actually, if I go there and we go like, yeah, so as you can see, there's so right now, actually, there's nothing there, right? So we could do something like, wow, what? Oh, it's a directory. Okay, so that's wrong. Okay, so we need to fix that. Or actually, just for the sake of this, where's this? Let's do like, because I was referring to this file technically, right? But we don't want to, I mean, we could try doing this now, right? We could pull the API, stop the API, whatever. I mean, we could test this locally. So actually, there's no point to arbitrarily do it like that. So let me just do our... Docker is everything, man. Docker is the most important tool for software developers ever made. So absolutely. Okay, so yeah, exactly. So now we should be, but actually I want to mount. So instead of mounting that right in here, let's actually, this is for production. Let me see. So if I go to Docker Compose override here, we should have a webhook. I suppose, do we have a webhook here? Because we could change the mount points then, right? So let's say here, yeah, exactly, right? We don't actually have to specify the image. We don't have to specify this. I'm just right now. I'm just configuring a webhook server. This is all for the sake of I'm gonna record a course for Udemy called Infrastructure for Startups. So right now I'm just working on a very small subtask of that whole thing. So as you can see here, actually now we have the deploy sh here, and if we actually go inside here. Let's actually do the same like this. So I'm gonna do something like this, right? So in development, I actually do wanna still call deploy sh. And once we make the config here work, it should call this, and then we don't really necessarily maybe need a trigger rule yet. So we can maybe just get rid of this for now. So this should be like, once we hit a certain hook with the ID deploy, it's gonna CD into here. Yeah, okay, we'll see. Maybe there might be an issue with the access issue there, but we'll see in a moment, right? Okay, so we have that. We have that, which should almost suffice. And then we go to our orchestrator here, and then we can just run our shell script again. Yeah. And then I'm gonna comment all of this stuff out, and I'll just say echo whatever, just so we don't like, just so we know, okay, this now when I hit my thing it works, la 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 la. And then we'll get into these other things. So that's correct. Is Windows, I think it is, give me 1 second. I think I've updated, give me 2 seconds. Because unfortunately I have to use Windows for this stream. This is my streaming desktop, because a bunch of shit doesn't work on Linux. And I can't stream from my MacBook Pro because no way it would handle this. But let's see, I think so. I think I have the latest updates. Where was it? I don't even remember. Where do I see? Update history, yeah. So as you can see, I am actually running it. Installed a couple of days ago. What was it? Yeah, installed maybe last week or this week. So it seems fine. I don't even know what is new in it. The cursor drain, I typically don't. My computer is always plugged into power when I work, so I don't know. I never paid attention, to be very honest with you. But yeah, VS Code is running Chromium, right? So it's not the most efficient runtime. It's very inefficient, right? It's very memory. It's like VS Code is a web browser, right? So that is the convenience of it, because it's so extensible. You can build anything. You can build in a web page. You can build in a text editor, which makes it powerful from that perspective. But it's obviously not efficient, right? It's anything that's using Chromium as its runtime, such as electron.js and all of these things, it's flawed when it comes to performance, right? I mean, Chrome itself has always been an irony to me. You have a Google where you have to pass all of these DSA interviews when you're applying, and then they have built the most inefficient software ever in history of humankind, which is Chrome, right? So that is kind of very ironic, if you ask me. And Cursor AI's a fork of VS Code, so it's probably even worse than the actual original thing, right? It's just irony at the best. It's like they ask you about, yeah, we need you to know algorithms, and then, you know, you go to your task manager and you realize that your Chrome uses more RAM than a fucking, I don't know. Like if we take a look at this, look at this. Look at this. I have 5 tabs opened. 1.5 gigs of RAM, right? And my virtual machine, my Windows Linux subsystem that's running 22 Docker containers now, it's using 5 gigs. But again, right, so this is what maybe a lot of especially younger developers don't understand. I don't think that community cares anymore, right? You just throw more hardware at it and it works. That's why people are buying new MacBook Pros every 2-3 years, right? It's, yeah, I mean, who cares? I can just you know, buy more RAM. And that is just how it is. So we traded convenience for performance many years ago in a tech industry. This is nothing new. LobeChat is just a open source, open AI type of, not open AI specifically, it's just a open source UI where you can use your like API keys to interface with LLMs. This is my own. I'm hosting this, as you can see, on a programmer network subdomain, and I use OpenAI key to interface with it. It doesn't actually matter. I mean, it doesn't bother me. This computer is like $7,000, right? So I have no problems with it. It's just no matter what you do, so again, the biggest problem with Chrome and Chromium is that it doesn't support dynamic libraries, right? So no matter what you do, it's still encapsulated, isolated runtime that always bundles everything into it, right? I remember when I worked at Airtime, we were building a Electron application, but we were building our own Chromium version. So we would kind of cut down Chromium by just removing a bunch of different APIs that we actually don't need. But no matter what you do, like Edge is also using Chromium, right? So Edge has probably maybe done some optimizations. They have excluded some of the C++ libraries installed as part of Chromium, which means that it works faster. But it's just anything that's statically built and anything that doesn't support dynamic libraries is bound to be huge, right? When should I use Docker and Kubernetes? Let's not conflate Docker and Kubernetes, right? Kubernetes is a massive orchestrator for orchestrating multiple servers together, right? Not multiple containers. Docker is just think of it as a virtual machine. You should use Docker always, and I'm sure that you use Docker already. It doesn't matter if it's a monolith or something. You're still hosting your current monolithic system as part of Docker, probably, right? So I don't think, hopefully you are. And monolithic architecture is, for a majority of companies, a correct way to architect their software, right? Because a lot of people don't understand what microservices are and what they're made for. Microservices are not just about technicalities. Microservices are about ownership, right? So this is what majority of people conflate when we think about microservices. We don't break things into microservices. At least reasonable CTOs, tech leads think like this. You break things into microservices, not just because of technicalities, because some basement dweller is sweating in their basement. It's because ownership as well. Because sometimes you want to give piece of code, piece of a service to a team that writes this specific language, uses these specific libraries, etc. So for example, you might have a data science team that no longer wants to send you queries, so you put them in some Golang or JavaScript API, right? They want to have their own Python microservice where they can build some fast API, and your other front-end facing API, whatever, is just calling that. So you isolate the knowledge for a specific team in a specific microservice. So you no longer, your front-end guys don't have to read some BigQuery or Snowflake queries anymore, right? So microservices are useful oftentimes when you have multiple teams, and these multiple teams have different ownership, different stacks, right? But you don't use microservices just because it's cool, right? And unfortunately, a lot of companies do this and they fail miserably, right? Startups often get free credits on major cloud providers, blah, blah. Absolutely. For example, AWS has a very generous startup plan. GCP has one, and actually you don't have to do anything. There's no negotiations, you just apply for it. So for example, if I go to AWS startup plan, and they have, keep in mind, they have multiple plans. So when I was working in Sweden around 10, 12 years ago, my startup was part of an accelerator, and we got $200,000 of AWS credits. But because we were part of the accelerator called MindPark and Think, and MindPark and Think as organizations had contracts with AWS, right? So you will not get that. But you will get a little bit less generous one. And anybody can get this. So, for example, I don't remember. I don't remember exactly, but 100%. Just search for AWS credits or AWS startups. You can get it right away. And the same goes with GCP, Google Cloud Platform. You can do, they have a very generous free tier as well. But keep in mind, one of the biggest issues with these services is if you fuck up, right? So this is why I'm also one of many reasons why I'm recording Infrastructure for Cores, Infrastructure for Startups course, is that the payment is deterministic, right? So when you go to Hetzner, by the way, if you want Hetzner, you can go there. When you go to Hetzner, your payment is deterministic. So you say, I want to pay hosting $10 a month. It's never going to be 12 or 15. When you're paying AWS, Azure, GCP, you can wake up one day if you fucked up, somebody DDoSed you, right? I always get rejected from them. Yeah, maybe then the way that you kind of exposed your project or whatever wasn't sufficient. I don't know. But again, you have to apply for the less generous one. Yeah. All right, amazing questions. Let's just code a little bit and then we're gonna take them again. Okay, cool. So now in theory, if I go to my alias webhook localhost, we're getting okay. And actually, you know what? Let's just do some. We can either do curl. So let's just say curl webhook could not resolve. Yeah, because I'm calling it now from Windows. So I need to call it from my Windows Linux subsystem, right? If we actually go to, do I have Postman on this machine? Yeah. You got Discord server. Yeah, I have finally, after years, I've introduced these commands. So there you go. I don't know why it's spamming it multiple times. It's sharing it both on YouTube and Twitch. That's why. Okay, I see. Okay, so this is, so our reverse proxy is in fact proxying requests to this. That's good. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking a little bit. Okay, so how do I now, how do we call it? Is it by the ID? I suppose it's by the ID. So if I say hooks, right? And then we take a look at our config somewhere. So if I go to my, if we go to the config, yeah, the ID is deploy, right? So in theory, if we go here and we say hooks and deploy, let's see. Deployment triggered successfully. Cool. All right, great. Like buys nobody, man. Whenever you have the time and I'm streaming, please pass by, man. Thank you very much, dude. So actually, that's cool. Let's now try to just nuke all the services when we call deploy, right? So let's see what happens. I wonder how can I get some STD out or whatever out of this. So let's shit. Let me think. So our config works. Let's use this composer. Let's use this AI a little bit. Is there a way to get some STD out or similar when my hook runs? Include command output in response. Ah, so nice. You can also add in these optional parameters for more control, success status code, customize the HTTP status code. Give me a second. All right, add them. Let's see what it's going to include. Command output, success status code, response headers. Yeah, not really. No. I mean, sure, we can get the success code, which should, I guess, be default anyway. And yeah. So let's run it again. Let's just change the status code to 201 just to see if it reflects in the HTTP headers here. No, it didn't. So I would expect this to be status 201. So it's not really. So I actually don't think that has done anything. Let's actually go back here. So this is something new to me as well, to be very frank with you, so it's good. Let me just open the composer again. Let's go back to this. And so let's try this. And let's actually also go to the official thing. Is there anything here about response headers? STD out, no. Okay, let's see. Multi-form, using HTTPS, running behind a reverse proxy. Okay, I'll need to read about a little bit more complex use case there, to be honest. I can see we can use a different protocol as well and stuff like that. So that's great. We'll have to see. But right now, I just want to get the basics, right? So nothing fancy here. So just very simple things. Need to make it kind of work and do what we want. And right now, that's not really happening. So response message. Yeah, so... Okay, let me go back here. Instead of returning a response message, is it possible to get an STD out or something more useful, so I know if the webhook actually executed successfully and that the return code was not an error? Just a research phase with this now, right? While using Traefik as a proxy, it doesn't typically provide a way to forward execute the feedback STD out codes, since Traefik focuses on routing traffic, not inspecting internals. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, sure, right? Yeah, that is not a terrible idea, I suppose. So let's give it a shot. So let's go to our Docker container here. Let's find our Webhook server. Let's view the logs. And let's see if we hit it, if there's actually anything in the logs. Ironically, I don't actually see anything happening, even though we are getting 200 here. Okay. Let me open up my Patrainer, right? Just maybe we can visualize it a little bit easier there. So let's come here. And containers, webhook. No line matching filter, so actually logs are useless. Is there anything in their documentation about the logs? Log. Using Prometheus to automatically scale web logic clusters and Kubernetes. Nah, we don't care about that. Okay, screw that. So let's get back to this. Okay, actually, let's just now uncomment our deploy sh here, the local one. And let's say... give me a second. Not that. Yeah, not that. Where is it? Docker compose override. Yeah, so this is what I care about. So this is what we are mounting to. So that should be fine. All right, so let me update my local deploy, just to try and kill the containers. So I'm gonna say I'm just gonna say Docker compose down. It's so hard, man, not getting any shit. Maybe let me take a look at the Traefik logs, because it's problematic that I don't actually see any logs now, and not getting anything meaningful. And I don't think we're gonna get any logs, anything more interesting here, honestly. No, shit. Okay, let's figure it out. Because we're getting 200 from our webhook server, so I suppose that's fine. And we're actually, I'm not getting now the, give me a second. So where's my response now? We should be getting deployment successful. We're not. Webhook hooks deploy. Yeah. Cookies. Let's get this. Ah, that's why. Okay. Deployment trigger successful. Okay. So technically it should be kind of killing these, but it's not. And it's crap. So it does trigger it, but how do we read the logs? Let's maybe try to get into the actual container. Let's attach ourselves there. As you can task, what is happening? The terminal process here has been failed to launch. Enable to start container process sh executable file not found in path and known. Shit, okay. So let's take a look at the files. Let's maybe restart the container. Let me remove the container. Let me remove the image. And then let's pull it again. Question: if a project is sponsored by NVIDIA and AWS means they're putting money in, or someone using what they offer for free? I'm a bit confused now. Maybe someone wants me to work with. Someone wants me to work for them for free. I don't, Dimitrich, I don't understand what you're asking. If a project is sponsored by NVIDIA and AWS means they're putting money in. Yeah, you need to rephrase the question a bit. I don't understand what you mean. All right, containers. I don't know why the process is exiting. We can't actually get into containers, so something's off here. Inspect. Error occurred while executing the hooks command. Please check your logs for more details. Huh. All right. Wait. Maybe that's actually good. Let's just take a look at that. So let's restart this again. Okay, so webhook is up. Error occurred while executing hook command. Please check your logs for more details. Applied for some work. They claimed they found it. Yeah, but you can check that easily, right? Just go to, I mean, you can check that. There are many websites where you can check. You can go to Angel List. What is the name of the company? Send me the name of the company. I'll check it for you. To be honest, very good question. I don't know. That's we're gonna learn together. In I mean, yeah, I don't genuinely know right now. But that's in a couple of minutes we should figure it out. It's a very hard thing now because this is going to a reverse proxy, so we actually don't. And I'm also having a hard time attaching shell to this image because executable not found in path. So most likely the sh is missing in this image. So maybe we're gonna have to adjust the image. I don't actually know. The image doesn't seem to be too great, so it's having hard time understand. So now it actually succeeded again, meaning like where's our deploy thing? So this executed properly, right? If I do this, and also it's Docker compose down without a dash like this. Like if we do Docker compose down, right? Exactly, right? Yeah. So we'll try running this, but I have a hard time believing it will do that because we would have to adjust this deploy script now, and we're not exposing the volumes. I mean, we would have to say yeah, I don't know, but let's give me a moment. We'll figure it out. Yeah, I mean, figure it out. Figure out what is the name, and then I'll help you out. I cannot help you if you don't even know the name of the place, right? Okay, so let's rerun it again. So it seems to be working, right? The only thing now that we need to figure out is, yeah, so you can see deployment triggered successfully. We get a 200 back, basically. And if we take a look at our Traefik logs, let's see, do we see anything there? Give me a second, trying to read the logs here. Let's say last 5 minutes instead. Debug. Yeah, I see. Yeah, but these are the old ones, right? So we would need to, I don't know why it's actually including those. It makes no sense. Okay, so here we see them actually, right? So localhost, hooks, deploy, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so basically we just proxy this back, and it seems fine, right? So requested address, request path is correct. Service, the internal IP is fine. So all of that is fine. So we can't see much. I don't think we can see much other than... Can we break any AI chatbot, like 10,000 people asking the same question and then all 10K tell it back that the answer is wrong? Will it then return different valued answer for anyone after that? I don't think, Ravaz, that's not how LLMs work, right? That's not how LLMs work. LLMs are not constantly trained on the go. I don't... Well, actually, that also depends on the LLM and you know, neural networks and the whole deep learning field, right? Because when it comes to LLMs, right, you have tokenization, then you have vectorization, then you have so the whole LLM, the whole deep learning path with combination of machine learning, neural networks, and all of these things. I'm not an expert in that. I'm actually learning that as much as the time I have, just to be prepared in a year or two. But you're not. I don't think that these models are learning on the go like that, right? There's a separate process when they're giving it new data, and then feeding it, and then making the models relearn, right? And these models are stateless, right? So the models themselves are stateless. They don't store any state. The state is usually typically stored, like all of your LLM, like prompts and all of that stuff. The memory part is that the stateful part is typically a different database, right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, let's get back to this. So the only thing that I hate with this now is that I have a hard time debugging it, right? So this thing did, in fact, run my local thing. Actually, can I try doing something like, I don't know, just something strange? Wait, can I just say like, I don't know, maybe something like this. And give me a second here. Let me just restart this service. Yeah, so not on Twitch, but all of my stuff is uploaded to YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you go to live, let me actually do it myself. So if you go to YouTube and then you go live here, right, you can find most of the previous streams. So they're all here. So absolutely, once I stop streaming, you can find them here under the live section. Definitely. I'm not storing it on Twitch because it's useless, and sometimes I get some subscribers on YouTube because they randomly find this video. Live streaming on YouTube is tough because YouTube doesn't care. They're not promoting this feature. So there's obviously majority of you are watching from Twitch now. There's maybe 5 to 10 people on YouTube. Okay. Get Goofer. Hey buddy, how you doing? Shit, man. So how can we, like, I need to think a little bit. How can I ensure that this... Do you recommend a place to learn about cache memory? Many people told me that it's very difficult to invalidate the cache. Whoever told you that has absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Also, cache is a very wide concept, but a relatively simple concept. So keep in mind, one of the top 3 hardest thing in programming, caching definitely belongs there, but not in the way that you've been told. Caching something and removing something from cache from a technical standpoint is very easy. So that's not rocket science, right? So that's not the hard part. The hard part is keeping the state and not forgetting to clear the state when you need to, the cache, when to invalidate the state or the cache, when to update the cache. So the hard part is cache is fundamentally your state, your additional state. And handling state in programming, no matter if you're talking about C programming language or JavaScript or React or Golang or Haskell, handling state is tough, right? Handling changes in your product is tough. And when you start caching things, you're fundamentally making decisions saying this type of data should not, in fact, be changed for an X interval of time. And that is the hard part. Knowing for how long something should be cached, should it be cached at the first place? So if you ask me, try to avoid cache as long as you can. A lot of people are caching stupid things because they don't understand the power of... nobody said that React is a programming language. I don't think that I've ever said that. So the power of databases such as MySQL, Postgres, etc., they don't want you shouldn't care about caching a logged in user until you have to do it, right? So longer you can avoid cache, the better. You're gonna have way less. And this is ironic because mostly people who talk about this are people who are building hello world apps, right? Never prematurely optimize, right? Optimize when you have to optimize, because caching is difficult in a sense of knowing what to cache, knowing when it should no longer be cached. And caching is usually one of the greatest sources of bugs, is the caching, right? Because people forget about the cache, then they're getting some value and thinking, man, this is not the value from the database, why we're getting that? And then typically you have cached something for either a longer period of time, because timeouts, intervals, timeouts, and arbitrary time values are also another very difficult thing in programming. You have to make conscious human decisions for how long you want something to not happen or happen. And in majority of cases, these are arbitrary things. Oh, let me cache a user profile for 10 minutes or X minutes, right? So exactly, again, caching you should always strive not to cache, right? And you should only cache when you either hit a bottleneck somewhere, but genuine bottleneck, right? Postgres, again, a lot of these databases, APIs are capable of delivering, you know, depending how you scale them, horizontally or vertically, depending on the technology of the API, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of requests, right? So, and these are technical decisions you learn about as you grow in your career, as you become more senior, as you face the consequences of these decisions. So I'm not talking out of my asshole or saying things theoretically. I'm telling you that I haven't worked for 20 years in an organization where caching was like just simple. There are certain things that sure you can cache and not worry about them because in many cases they make sense, but typically it's always a pain, right? So optimize things when optimization is needed. Don't prematurely optimize it, right? And unfortunately, a lot of these libraries, even in front-end libraries and frameworks like React and Angular and stuff, like useQuery and stuff, a lot of these libraries are coming with caching pre-enabled or enabled by default. And in my personal opinion, this is a huge mistake because it introduces behaviors that human brain wouldn't typically find logical, right? So of course, Redis and caching and a lot of other things. If we talk about caching in general, there's some things you want to keep in memory, right? So for example, notification system that I built for Programmer Network, all of the users and all of the hash maps, hash tables, objects are kept in Redis. So when a user gets a new notification, I can resolve these metadata IDs and stuff in like no time. So, you know, caching, you could say, has multiple purposes, and sometimes you want to keep literally a bunch of your data in memory because you can access it faster, etc., etc., etc. That's what Redis is amazing for, right? But caching things such as, oh, I'm not going to be calling get user, logged in user when I come to a single page app, that is arbitrary and redundant because these queries are so cheap that your database is like, dude, I'm idle for the most part anyway in most products, right? The biggest problem with many of you who watch these streams and watch YouTube is that you're heavily influenced by people who are talking about some theoretical scalability at like Microsoft or Amazon or Alibaba and stuff. The amount of people and companies who deal with these scale issues is like 0.01%, right? Majority of you, I, and most of us, we're building products that do not need these types of scaling solutions, right? So that's unfortunately the irony of the internet and most of these courses is that they talk about hyper successful unicorn companies that deal with either streaming infrastructure such as Netflix or a bunch of these other companies, but that has nothing to do with you. Majority of you, myself included, these are the things that you don't care about in most cases, right? So don't forget that. Don't compare yourself to services that need to operate over millions or billions of users potentially, because there's also nothing necessarily incredible about that either. Infrastructure, as I will hopefully record and showcase in this course once I start recording it for Udemy, infrastructure is something that grows incrementally. So even when you look at Facebook and all of these platforms, when that Mark guy built Facebook, it was literally an API and a database. And then it became popular and he said, fuck, I probably need to scale this database and this API. And then he scaled it. And then fast forward, 10, 20 years, there's probably hundreds of different services that deal with certain things. Oh, we're going to use this for image recognition. We're going to do this for object storage, right? So when you look at all of these graphs today, it's very of these infrastructures like Netflix infrastructure. You're like, man, this is so complex. It is, but it grew over time. It's not that that company was founded and they added 700 different services, right? It goes from one tiny API and one tiny front end, and then you add these things as your use cases. So these services are added to over time to solve business problems. So nobody starts an infrastructure and make it scalable to 3 billion people because maybe one day you're going to have 3 billion people. That's ridiculous, right? You start with the most basic shitty API on a $5 hosting, and then you scale from there. And that is the beauty of infrastructure when you know how to do it. And hopefully, again, this course is going to showcase that eventually, because you start simple and then you scale as the users come in, if ever, right? So that is your thought process. That's how you should be thinking, not comparing yourself to hyper successful companies. There's like 20 of them on earth, right? They have different problems, and even them, they didn't have them when they were founded, right? Okay, cool. I hope that makes some sense. Of course, that's what the infrastructure is, right? That's like, think about infrastructure as having family, right? You get married to your partner and you live in a 40 square meters apartment, right? And then one day you have a child. Your wife tells you, as mine did to me back then, husband, my dear JavaScript programmer husband, I know how much you love JavaScripts of the world, but we gotta move out, man, and find a bigger place because we are having another child, right? So we need more walls. And then you get one child and now you are 70 square meters. And your wife one day comes to you and says, I'm pregnant, we need more walls. And then you get 100 square meters apart. That's what infrastructure is, right? That's how you build your... And when I use the word infrastructure, I'm not just talking about Dockers or hosting services. I'm talking about everything. It can be your UI library framework. It can be your API. It can really be anything in programming. You could call nearly everything infrastructure. Everything is infrastructure of some kind. And you scale that or evolve it or make it larger or simpler in some context when the needs occur, not the other way around, right? You hate JavaScript. I'm sad to hear that you hate JavaScript. JavaScript is a beautiful language. It's a language that can be written in a beautiful way when you know how. And I don't think that you hate JavaScript. I hope you don't. I think you maybe hate some of the community around it or something. I've been writing JavaScript for 20 years amongst many other languages and been doing many other things as well. And I genuinely believe that JavaScript is an amazing language. The biggest problem with JavaScript is that a lot of people suck at JavaScript, and that is the reason why I dislike it. Some are even intimidated by it. I spent 5.5 years at the bootcamp teaching JavaScript many years ago, and I know JavaScript inside out, and I almost read the whole ECMAScript spec of it. And I can tell you that, yeah, JavaScript is a nice language that unfortunately runs in a runtime as it is. It's a web runtime, and it has to work the way that it has to work, right? You have to understand that JavaScript runs on 4 billion devices. It's powering browsers, phones, even IoT things, right? So that's it, right? So don't. I think a lot of people don't actually even understand what JavaScript is, right? So for example, I happen to know, because I was teaching JavaScript for so long, that people conflate the browser APIs with JavaScript. Majority of people don't know that JavaScript spec and JavaScript language is relatively minimal. Most of the features that people often refer to are browser features. They're not JavaScript features. So when you think about DOM, document object model, that's not JavaScript. That is the browser's API exposed to JavaScript, right? So when we talk about DOM and trees and a lot of other things, that's not JavaScript. These are the APIs, unfortunately implemented with some differences across different browsers, right? So you have to understand what a JavaScript is first and foremost, right? Don't conflate the browser built-in features with the language. JavaScript offers, just if you ever wrote C++, something like STL, standard template library, so like most other languages, it offers loops and statements and objects, etc. And then the browser vendors implement the APIs that we interface with using JavaScript, right? So a lot of people conflate this with the language, right? That is like conflating system-level APIs on Windows with C#. C# doesn't come with a event-based system from Windows 11 or Windows 7, right? C# or C++ or whatever, they use these APIs to interface with the whole system, right? Is that creators did not know what would it be, I guess. I don't think, yeah, I mean, again, I mean, look, you have the right to like or dislike whatever you want, of course. I cannot take that away from you. I just need you to give it a thought, right? And try to understand why JavaScript became so popular, right? Why Python is popular, and why, let's say, Haskell is not popular, right? People who are very stuck in technicalities forget that languages are about accessibility. And when I say accessibility, I mean about a good language is a language that's easy to learn. And now you can find these sweaty basement dwellers, these 16 years old wannabe hackers with green terminals who are still young enough and never had a job to think otherwise. That's perfectly fine. But once you build products, once you try to generate profit for companies, for your own company, you want to have something that's easy enough, where community is great, and how can I use a single language to be able to build as many things as possible? And that's where JavaScript won. With JavaScript, you can build mobile apps, desktop apps, web apps. Now, the constraints of the ecosystem, language, etc., sure, you can discuss that until infinity, but that doesn't change the fact that the language is popular because it's accessible, right? And then the opposite, why some languages are not as popular, right? So this is not about sweaty basement dweller developers. This is about business and onboarding, etc., right? So when you think about reactjs, when you think about any of these things that exist in this community, it's about how can we build things as quickly as possible. People who tell you things such as, why are you using a framework? Why are you not writing plain JavaScript? They've never actually built anything in their lives, because that's the most idiotic thing anyone can say ever. Because imagine the complexity if every single company now had their own way to build web apps. You go to company X, we have our own version of HTML5 history API. Then you go to another one, they have this. So we need frameworks and libraries for standardization. So when you're getting a new job, you can go there and say, well, I know this because there's millions of people who also do these things in this way. So there's a lot of childish commentary out there, mostly made by people who never actually built anything or worked in a team bigger than 2 people, right? It's just ridiculous. Sometimes I stumble upon these videos on YouTube or even here on Twitch, and I'm shocked how shallow some of these opinions are. It's absolutely ridiculous, right? The business world dictates what's needed or not the other way around, right? You can like whatever you want, but the fact is simply that the business world is like, yeah, we like this, we can build things like this fast, and we can hire people very quickly, we can onboard them very quickly, check, that works, right? I simply don't trust frameworks. I work with them, but code that is not written. But listen, that statement is no different than saying I don't trust medicine, or I don't trust the pants I'm wearing, I don't trust my computer. You have to, these are very like, there's a fine line there, right? Like, that's like saying I'm not trusting medical professionals, like these conspiracy theories, like, oh, Bill Gates wants to chip us all and kill us, right? So every single thing that you use in your life is an abstraction of some sort, right? The tools you're using, the oven that you're using to bake your pie, right? That's an abstraction. Otherwise, take the log of wood and just make fire on your balcony and then boil your soup, right? So that makes no sense. I'm sorry, but it makes absolutely no sense. Anyway, interesting discussions. There's so much to say and so very little time. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna actually try one thing here. I'm just gonna comment this thing out. I wonder what kind of shady life are you living. Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I get that people are maybe scared a little bit. No, because I'm streaming from a Windows computer, because streaming from Linux sucks because of this microphone, the lights, and all of the shit I have. That's my terminal setup for this machine. And on my Mac, for my work, the computer I use for my work and my Linux, I'm using iTerm 2. Yeah, so this kind of didn't work. Yeah, so I don't actually To be honest, yeah, I don't. To be very frank with you, this is the only thing now that we're kind of stuck a little bit with. Is I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure here. Yeah, so I would expect, because we are running the deploy script now. Ooh, okay, shit. Yeah, crap, man. Maybe we because our script is not executable. Is that the reason? That could be the reason easily, right? Okay, let's try hitting this crap again. Okay, and let me just restart this container. I don't actually know. Let me just smack that bad boy. Where is it? This guy, right? Shit, yeah. Okay, let's try hitting it up again. Fuck. Okay, let's try another thing. So what I'm gonna do, this is fine, and then I'm gonna say, all right, when you run this crap, and I wonder, do I need to provide the full? Yeah, maybe. Let's try that. So annoying, man. I'm using Fastify. I also wrote some libraries. Fastify is the best thing that happened to nodejs in many years. Using Fastify. If I'm not writing Go, if I'm writing JavaScript for the API, I'm using Fastify. Yes. Shit. So crap, man. Banana. Yeah, let's try like this. Otherwise, I'll need to use a little bit of AI and just try to figure out. Programmer, what made you use JavaScript instead of Go for this backend? Just not making the course even more complex than it already is. There's a lot more people who are familiar with JavaScript, let's say, than no. So keep in mind the biggest irony of this course is that this course is not really about anything specific per se. So this course is not going to fully teach you React and fully teach you Fastify and Node. The course is to give you a very, very good overview and to enable you to start working from there towards the pieces of the infrastructure that interest you the most. Because otherwise, if I would focus on everything in detail, the course would be literally like 400 hours, and that's impossible, right? So this course is not going to be emphasizing the front end or the back end. It's really about the whole picture. It's like going from planning and building and deploying and observing and all of the things, right? So that's why it's hard. That's why the course is going to be very specific, and that's why I called it infrastructure for startups, because it doesn't really lean on. It doesn't emphasize anything that much, but it emphasized everything, right? So that's why I built these. That of course I'm gonna open source these things when they're done. But if we kind of go here, right? If we go to like this new organization I've created, you don't see this now. They're still hidden. I will obviously open source all of this eventually when it's done. But the point is, you can see this is what the course is really about: planning, coding, building, testing, releasing, deploying, operating, and monitoring. So this is you could say a full end-to-end. Everything is right now better than Express. So nearly anything is better than Express, right? Express is no longer really maintained, right? And Fastify is fundamentally nearly on every level better than Express. And I'm not going to even talk about performance, which obviously Fastify does better, because performance, let's say, is arbitrary. It's not actually relevant in this discussion. Fastify comes with sufficient amount of features which are well opinionated, and sufficient amount of design patterns which are non-opinionated. So Fastify comes with patterns such as hooks, decorators. You have a proper life cycle access using hooks to nearly any life cycle, any moment of the request response life cycle. It comes with a Swagger as a first-class citizen because of another JSON validator, AJV library that it uses. So the biggest problem with I've been writing Express for literally from day one, maybe when it came out, especially a decade or more ago. When Express.js came out at the very beginning, it was sufficiently opinionated because it came with certain things that nearly every project needs. Then what the Express team did, they broke everything down into modules and made it just a tiny abstraction over. Thank you very much for the sub, Bruno. I appreciate that, man, a lot. Anyway, not to give you the whole history of things, Fastify is great because, number one, it's built by Matteo Collina, who is an expert and one of the Node.js committee members. So I trust him a lot, and he's probably a level higher engineer than the rest of us. I have a high respect for him. But on top of that, the features that are built in there are simply logical. Like, for example, in my opinion, every single web API framework has to come with an OpenSpec API, for example, Swagger, with a first-class citizen support. So if the framework or library you're using doesn't support Swagger out of the box, fuck that, right? Because OpenSpec API documentation should be an afterthought, right? Let me show you, right? So if I go now to, let's say, localhost API docs, this is just covering this course right now. This is automatically generated for me from Fastify. So I'm not manually writing OpenSpec specifications. This is generated because the way that Fastify is designed as a web API framework enables me to get this for free. Because Fastify is validated using another JSON validator, so request, response, body, URL parameters, query parameters, everything is validated using these JSON objects, then the Fastify team has built support for Swagger by utilizing the JSON and converting it to a valid YAML that then generates your OpenSpec API. So that's one of the features which is already sufficient for you to use Fastify. And then, as I said, you have a plugin system, you have encapsulated plugins that you can reuse across the projects, you have the hooks and decorators and a lot of other stuff. And on top of that, it's using Pino logger written in C. So it has very efficient logging as well, which for me personally is like one of the most important parts of any web API framework is logging. It's elementary, observability. So all of these things are what makes Fastify great, right? Hacker, good evening, friend. Have you tried? No, I've never tried anything other than Prometheus, no. And it's not bashing. I mean, look, please don't misunderstand me. This is not to say that your Express API sucks. Absolutely not. I don't do bashing in this stream. I think Fullbringer, if you were here ever before, and I know you've been around, I don't bash things. That's not my style because it's useless. Spending energy on shitting on things is not my thing, right? In fact, I ban people who shit on things for any reason, right? Because it's pointless, right? It's pointless pointing out flaws. I'm just saying, somebody asked me what is better, and I'm saying if you're starting a new project and you're choosing between the two, choose one, right? I have probably 20 different servers still running Express.js because I wrote them very long back in time, and there's no point for me switching, right? But if you're starting a new project and you wrote, you want to use Node.js for your backend, that's what that's just the thing. And trust me, whoever I suggested Fastify to in this stream over my streaming period, they never looked back, right? Silly question, can you suggest me a project that if done, I can be confident I can be fitted to any mid-senior? Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. As I said before, the only way for a couple of streams ago, somebody asked me, how do I know? Somebody asked me, can I sell myself as, I don't know, senior developer? And the answer to these types of questions is very simple. You as a developer, me, all of us, we are products, right? If you're capable of selling yourself as X or Y, then you are that. So there's no like, these titles are very arbitrary, right? So you have to find someone that's gonna trust that you are who you say you are, right? So there's no project out there that somebody's gonna look at and say, oh, this guy is a senior. You have to convince them that you are. And some people actually have capabilities, social skills to convince others of anything, even if they're not that. So if you're capable of convincing others of something, then in theory you are that, right? So there's no project that I can suggest that's gonna make you that, right? 100% exactly, Get Goofer. Is like, what is the value of something, right? I mean, majority of the products that we buy, they cost probably 300, 400, 500 times than their production value. I know this because I worked in hardware companies so I'm not gonna name them, but majority of stuff that you're selling, the production value is usually 5 to 10 times cheaper. But then of course you have to account for salaries, R&D, and all of the other things, right? So it's the same with persons. If you are able to convince someone that you're something, and this is also a skill, right? Your GitHub repository is not going to do that, right? Yeah. And thank you everybody for your follows and your subs. I have these like notifications disabled so it doesn't spam the channel when I talk. So there's so many videos. Become a senior dev with this project. Like, if things worked like that, I would be a CEO of Apple, right? So that makes absolutely no sense. No sense. You have to come into an interview and pass 6, 7 rounds of things. You have to be liked by others. You have to know how to sell yourself. And this is a skill that you learn and also enhanced by confidence, right? So no project is gonna make you anything. Nobody gives a crap about your project because everybody knows that a project can be written by anyone and committed to a repository by you, right? So Revez, like, keep in mind that, as I always say, and I'm a realist, right? So I stream for fun. I don't actually care if people are gonna like or dislike my views. I have credibility. I try to stay credible and say what I genuinely believe. And usually when people ask me what project should I do, I suggest them not to do anything, because building a full-scale product that's production ready and when you have a full-time job and stuff, is already difficult when you have the highest motivation possible. If you don't know what to build, that probably indirectly means there's nothing that you do want to build. So me telling you build this to torture yourself would be unfair towards you, right? Like, I genuinely want to build side projects like Programmer Network. I wake up every day and I go to work and I'm with my kids and my wife, and I'm always thinking, man, I wish I had more time for Programmer Network, right? Because I genuinely want to do it. And I still don't do it because there's very, very little time. And whenever I have that little time, I do it. Like now I'm with you guys here because this little time I have, I wanted to do this, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is like, if you have no motivation to build a project, it's going to be very difficult for you to build a project because it's inherently hard already. And I'm not talking about programming being hard. It's not the programming part that it's hard. What's hard is knowing what you're building and just sticking to it for a very, very long time. Because building something real, building something that works, that people are not disgusted when they see it, takes a lot of effort and time and thinking, etc. Ismail, good evening, buddy. So I cannot, nobody can suggest you what to build, right? You have to ask yourself, what is my passion? What are the things in life that excite me? And is there something I can build for that? And if I'm a guitar player, you know, if I'm a guitar player, maybe I want to build some tool for, I don't know, I want to build a distortion effect. So when I'm playing my guitar, the sound is distorted. I want to build a delay effect, right? Or I'm into birds. I like to take pictures of the birds. So I'm going to build a bird, right? So nobody else can tell you what to build. That's never going to work. That's why 99.9999% of developers never finish anything, because they are building shit randomly. They have no motivation. And actually, I'm sorry, I have to say, motivation is also very overly, very hyped. Motivation is really also maybe something that shouldn't even matter, because it's continuity and discipline that matter the most, right? Because if your expectation in life is that you're going to only achieve things when you're motivated, you're going to have a very hard time, very hard life. Because people who are hyper successful are people who are constantly pushing through even when they're not motivated, right? So building your side thing, building it for a long time is hard. Again, not because writing React components or building APIs is hard. It's just coming day after day after day, and there's so many distractions. You can play video games, a guitar, a saxophone. You know, I play a guitar, I play saxophone, I have kids and wife and shit tons of other stuff. But then I do find the time every now and then, not very often, I don't stream much, but when I stream, I do find the time to do this because I prioritize it, right? I say, well, you know, I want to do this. Yeah, I play saxophone and I play guitar for my whole life pretty much. But for example, I haven't played my sax, for instance, now for a couple of weeks because I prioritize other things, right? And this is like, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you one story just about programming network, for example. Let me tell you why is it for people. So for example, let's take programming network, this platform that I'm building here, right? This thing that I mostly stream on this stream. There were some friends that were helping me with programming network, for example, right? And after 2-3 weeks into the product, your friend is like, hey man, did you finish this? Oh, I had to go to football. Then next week, oh, I had to go this. Oh, I had to do this. And fundamental difference between people who finish things and people who don't finish things is exactly this understanding that you didn't have to go to football. You didn't have to go and do whatever. And that is like, so people usually come here even to this chat and say, yeah, but I had, no, you didn't have to, right? So this differentiates people who build products after their work hours and stuff like that from those who don't. You didn't have to. Like if you want to do something, if you truly desire it and you want it, you will do it. And that's why I say, if you don't want to do it, just don't do it. Don't torture yourself. Don't fall victim to YouTube and influencers and bullshit like, you should be building these side projects. You absolutely shouldn't be building these side projects, especially if you don't want to, because you will not get anywhere. If somebody needs to tell you build this, you probably shouldn't build it, right? And I've learned this over 20 years countless times, because I was once, I'm 36 years old now, but I was also 20 and 15 and 10, and I was also building things because somebody else told me to, right? And this always ended up nowhere, right? So try to find what your motivation is and try to see what interests you. And then try to say, okay, wow, okay, this would be cool to build. I want to build, again, delay effect for my guitar. I want to build distortion effect in the browser. Or I want to build a nursery home social platform, right? I want to help old people. But if you don't have the desire, the vision of something that you want, it's going to be very tough for you. Very tough. Yeah. All right, cool. Whew. Man, getting hungry from all the talk. My brain is fried. All right, friends. Okay, good. So anyway, as always, when there's a lot of people in the stream and a lot of questions, I don't achieve anything, but I'm still happy because there's a lot of new people here who found the stream and stuff. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, going back to our webhook problem, I don't actually know how to debug this. That is the problem right now. So I can see, and as we saw a second ago, if we take a look at our logs, we can see, in fact, that we are hitting the reverse proxy, and then reverse proxy is hitting the webhook. Webhook is saying everything's fine, and then reverse proxy is then saying again everything's fine. The irony of it whatsoever is that, for example, in my shell script here, I'm saying, hey, cd into on my own host, create a banana file and fill banana file with banana text, right? Wow, that sounded amazing. But if we look for the banana is not there, right? There's no bananas here. So, and actually I should be there. Yeah, so there's no bananas. But we're still getting okay. So we're still getting, hey, okay, actually let's try one thing. Let me just fuck this file name up, right? Let's try, are we still gonna get 200? Are we still gonna get 200 when we run this, right? And we're still getting 200. So yeah, I don't like that, man. Let's restart the container. Let's restart this container. Yeah, we're still getting 200. Yeah, but I don't think I should, right? Because we're giving it, so we get, fuck, no, yeah, no, so this is, okay, so this is basically, this is pointing to my volume. So you can see here we have my local sh file, right? Which is inside of here. And then we have one inside of, and then we gave it read only, right? Let's try to, it will be open source, yes. Once I'm done and once the code on Udemy is recorded, yes, all of these repositories will be open source. Yep, for sure, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm actually looking forward to that a lot. There's the caching issue. There's another caching issue. Yep, cache is hard, man. That's why I'm saying it. And good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good to have you here. Thank you very much for coming and spending your time here. Yeah, okay. So let's fiddle with this config. I don't have any other idea. And then I mean I need to. Let's actually shit, man. Let's ask the composer, man, or something like. All right. So right now, my once I hit localhost 9000, I'm hitting my Traefik reverse proxy, which is then hitting my webhook server. Whatsoever, no matter what I set execute command to, and also command working directory, I'm getting 200 back, which means something is wrong. I'm new to your stream. What are you building? So this stream is typically about the Programmer Network platform, www.programmer.network. But in past couple of streams, since I came back streaming again, I'm building a course for Udemy called Infrastructure for Startups and Indie Hackers. And I'm just creating the course content here on the stream and also learning some of the things myself that I'm going to then teach in the course. So right now, I'm just setting up the Webhook server that's going to be called by GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket when there's a new thing merged into master, and then our server, so it's going to be a push from Git to our Webhook server, and then our server is going to say, oh, there's a new API image. Let me pull that, stop the orchestrator, and then run the service again, right? So, and I'm just trying to figure out like how to debug this. Let's see. Let's see what the robot did. Robot is very good at this. No, not really. So it's a very good question. It's a very good question, Cedric, but not really. Let me tell you why. Because this is the command working directory. So this deploy file is going to be bound from my host here to the location inside of the container. So inside of the container, the location is serve deploy sh, right? So I think this is fine for the most part. But that actually, it doesn't even matter if it's fine, right? The biggest problem is that even if I change this to banana and banana Cedric, right? We're still getting 200. And I would say that if this is how this Webhook server works, this Golang service we're using, then that kind of sucks because I shouldn't be getting 200 even when the things fail, right? So that's, but I don't think that's it. So let's see. So let's read what the AI said. Let's add some logging and validation to make sure the Webhook is, we should verify the file permissions and paths, add some error handling, sure. Yeah, but we did this, right? We did give it a, let's do it again, right? So let's say chmod plus x, no, right? Make sure the Webhook server has permissions to access serve directory, execute, deploy. With these changes, yeah, let's try hitting this. I don't know. I mean, I know we're gonna solve it. It's just, yeah, it's a little bit weird. I would expect a little bit different output or something, right? And I don't actually know. I don't know if we need to restart the container. I don't actually think so, but let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. I don't. And then there's another issue with this container is that it's missing sh binary. So you can see if I try to attach the shell, let's actually just go to this GitHub repo for a second. And let's try to search for this issue. Actually, yeah, exactly. It's this issue here. Since the image basically just contains the Webhook binary, all programs that aren't single binary can't be executed by a Webhook without modifying the image. This includes a shell script. Yeah, that fucking sucks, man. I mean, I think the best way to, yeah, we have to do that. We have to do that. I'm sorry, we have to do it. We have to go and let's do one thing. So error occurred now. Let's take a look at our Traefik logs. Last 5 minutes, yeah. I think the problem is, that they're just literally exposing a single binary from there. So I think what I'm gonna do is this, give me a moment, where is it? So if we go here, we'll literally need to have our own image installing the bin sh whatever. The Traefik is used as reverse proxy. Exactly. Fuck, man, I don't want to fork this. The problem is... Yeah, give me a moment. There's few other images. Let's just do some due diligence on them, right? So we have, let's compare the stars at least. So Sor Azukli. Hey man, good to have you here. So wait, but which one did we? There's this one which you could say in theory has some traction. Yeah, it has some downloads. That's great. Let's just... Just a thank you note. Without... Okay, well, sure. All right, I mean... Yeah, let's give it a shot. Fuck it. Let's give it a shot. Yeah, I'm gonna literally try that. The config should still remain the same, honestly. Let's give it a shot. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Well, okay, we at least have a fucking log now. Nice, man. Okay, cool. So let's try hitting it again. So let's close the trainer there. Let's, that was weird, man. Okay. Where's my webhook? Bullboard, blah, 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 blah. Grafana, Loki, orchestrator. Yeah, here it is. View logs. Yeah, okay, we got some logs there now. Okay, cool. So let's hit this. There we go, right? We got 4 of 4. And that's okay, I suppose. Hook not found, okay. Ah, I see. Probably now we just have to adjust the config a little bit. Volumes. I see. So we need to adjust the, yeah. So let's go over here. Let's go to Webhook. And, right. Path to app data config read only. So I suppose instead of providing a single file, we can kind of segregate these things into here. So right. So I suppose what we're supposed to do is something like this, right? And then Yeah, right. Yep. Maybe. I think so. I'm based on this, should be like this, right? Webhooks. And then if we go here, shit. And thank you everybody for your follows. I appreciate that very much. Thanks. Did I actually have to update something else? Let me see. Hook not found. All right, let me update a few more places. I think it's we're not giving it Docker compose override. Docker compose override. Yeah. So config webhooks config. All right. Where is it? I see. So we need to rename that, right? I suppose that's what they're suggesting. Okay. Let's run our shell script again. Yeah, but these are different types of things, right? These are bound points here, right? This is what I'm saying. This is binding your file on your host to the place inside of the container. You're basically sharing your local file with the container, with the system in there, right? These volumes are different, right? These volumes are typically used for, I mean, you can, of course, they're still volumes, right? But as you can see, these are just the volumes that, so if we take a look at this trainer data, so we could do this as well, right? But right now we are, yeah, so right now I'm just kind of fiddling with it with this new image. So we have a new image right now. So I just want to like configure it so it works with the new image, because we just replaced the entire image, the webhook image, with something else. Shit, so it's still kind of farting out. Let's actually restart the webhook server, maybe. Okay, hook not found. Okay, and are we still like exposing this? We are, so we're getting okay. So we're still crap. So we're still not binding properly. Let's see. So this is my override. Is there some other place? Give me 2 seconds. Development, webhook. Yeah, so it's not there. Let's go to production labels. Let's go to webhook in here. So my volumes are commented out here, so that's good. So we really only have them in here. Config webhooks, and is that correct? Config webhooks hooks, config read only, yes. I think that looks correct. I don't know, like, I believe that's correct, honestly. So we have the config, right? we're executing the command from there. So we have the config hooks JSON, right? I mean, honestly, like, just out of desperation, I will, I'll give it a full file, which I'll just say hooks. Maybe like this, I don't actually know. It's a little bit weird. The documentation isn't the greatest, is it? Hook not found. What the heck? I think I do. I think you're right, and I think we will, because now we can actually get into this container properly. Before we couldn't even do that, right? So let's see, where the hell is it? Where's the So I think the first, I mean, I think what, yeah, it's a bit weird, man. Come on. So that should work, right? Oops, no, sorry. Webhooks, config webhooks, right? Yep. Let me just rerun it again. And then we can take a look at that again. So let's go here. So we can see that we're actually getting 200 back from this, right? So if I actually go ahead and even just try to hit the root, right? Okay. So deploy, not found. Page not found. Okay, so it is /hooks, okay. Deploy. Where's our container? Let's go in there. Like somebody suggested, attach shell. And what is the path I said? So yeah, so if we go hooks, right? So they are here, right? So we can see that we're binding this properly. Let's give a shout out to the raiders. Good evening. Thank you very much for the raid. It's HTTP. So it's only, we might be putting good evening, Jero En. I'm just working on some, I'm setting some infrastructure for startups course, and right now I'm working on just setting up a webhook server. We're gonna need it for CI and CD purposes, and we're just now trying to bind properly the config file there, and for some reason it actually doesn't like it. Let's kind of get to that. Where was our repo? Was it, yeah, it's this one. Yeah, exactly, right? So path to app. So we are definitely binding it. Name webhook. So I guess we could, like, if we go over here, I do have a roadmap. I mean, everything that I'm doing for this course that I'm going to record afterwards, it's here. So basically what's got left is what we're working on now, then a couple of tiny things, and then the next thing I need to write. I've kind of done a lot of this, but I need to finalize the Terraform part, right? Because we're going to be, everything is going to be infrastructure as code, so no clicking around and shit like that. So, you know, setting up the Terraform as a configuration for deploying, setting up some things on Cloudflare, and then obviously on Hetzner. So provisioning the Hetzner server, setting up the unified firewall and host level stuff, And then, of course, enabling automatically some features on Cloudflare, like SSL and DNS, etc., etc., etc. Right? Everything has to be done through Git and not through clicking the UI, right? Because clicking through UI, nobody ever knows who the hell did what. And that is often the problematic part of GCP and AWS and a lot of these platforms, is that you go somewhere, you go to the CDN, or I don't know, you go and enable some Vertex AI feature, but you have no history of that, right? So I think a couple of more streams and I should be done with some of the rough content. Then I'll not stream again for some time, and I need to like improve this and write down the... I need to write down the transcripts of what I'm going to talk about, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work, but hopefully it's going to be rewarding at the end. Okay, so why are we getting 404 here? Why are we getting 404? Because as we can literally see here, like we are binding this properly. And here's the ID, right? Here's the ID, right? Deploy. So, Jerome, thank you very much, man. That's good to hear. That's why I stream. That's always a good thing to hear. Okay, let's fix this bloody thing, man. Like, yeah, I mean, let's see what image am I using. It makes kind of no sense. I mean, at least based on what I'm looking at right now, it seems I'm doing everything correct, right? So let's just skim through once more. So that's all correct. We're not really providing the time zone. It doesn't really matter. Hi, I'm new to this channel. Do you have any tips for coding interviews? I do, but a lot of it doesn't. A lot of it doesn't depend on you, right? It depends on how great or terrible the interviewer is. I would just say, you know, ask questions all the time. Don't be shy, be natural if you can. But don't forget that interviewing is like dating or like anything else in life. Until you do it sufficiently enough, you will fail. It's literally one of these things that very, very low fraction of population finds that natural. I only have one friend, Pierre, a French guy who loves interviews. He interviews even when he doesn't want a new job, just because he's enhancing his interviewing skills. But interviewing is tough, and it's hard from both perspectives: company perspective, applicant's perspective, because for every position there's hundreds of applicants, right? So my tip to you is, the most important tip is always, always, always ask for feedback afterwards and reflect at home. And before you go into an interview, go to DeepSeek. It's like, do this. Wait. So for example, you can actually do this in several ways. You can go to like docs.google. Let me show you. So go here. For example, you can do this in countless ways and say, click on tools and say voice typing and say, hey, I'm Alexander. I'm a software developer and a tech lead, and I've been in the IT industry since 2008, and I've been a programmer and nerd for more than 20 years. La 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 la. So you interview yourself and you ask yourself questions, and then once you finish, you look at your own answers and realize, how does that sound? What did I miss? And what could I have done better, etc. Once you have that crap, right, you can go into any AI. You can go to DeepSeek, OpenAI, whatever, paste that transcript and say, this is how I present myself in the technical interviews. Can you tell me what could I do, but it doesn't matter. You can use any AI. That's beside the point, right? But before anything, try to interview yourself first, and then refine. Interviewing, again, don't forget, is a skill. Interviewing is literally a skill. It's a social skill. And once you fail or succeed sufficient amount of times, you understand what you're supposed to say. There's a lot of generic answers inside of the interviews, like they ask you, a lot of them are psychological and trick questions, you know, etc., etc. So, but again, it depends largely on how good a person that's interviewing is or how terrible, right? Is the webhook responsible for executing the deploy? So this webhook server is going to be our general webhook server for any types of tasks. For now, it's supposed to, now I'm just testing it to run local deploy script on my computer, right? Through the reverse proxy, through Traefik. But this is just a test. This is just, we're just testing, does this webhook server works? My pleasure, man, of course. Keep in mind, when it comes to interviews, they're hard for every single person on earth. And so don't be too hard on yourself. It's literally statistics. Interviews have always been statistics. Today, 20 years ago, people are telling you, oh, blah, blah. No, interviewing was always a company hires for one person, there's hundreds of people apply, and they have to make a random guess, because it's largely a random, because they don't speak to all 200, because you have to narrow down that to 5 or 10 people max, because you can only afford as an organization to talk to this many people, because you're developers, you're taking the developers out of building the product, and you're making them waste hours on interviewing someone. And it's usually multiple people. So it's a very expensive process. Hiring is incredibly... So a lot of people are criticizing this process, but nobody is providing a solution, which is why I say in my stream, I generally don't bash anything unless I can come up with a tangible, proactive way to solve it. Because it's very common today to complain like a little asshole about everything without actually putting your money where your mouth is and saying, well, yeah, this sucks, but this is how we can solve it, and I will solve it. Everybody is like, this sucks, that sucks, that sucks. Well, what is the solution, man? Provide a fucking solution or don't complain. Makes no sense. You just sound like a little asshole. Okay. I have read Cracking the Coding interview many, many years ago. I think I have it here, actually. Yeah. Here's the bad boy. It's shit, my camera is doing crazy crap. But is this what you're referring to, right? Yeah. Yeah, camera, just git ignore that. Okay, let's get back and solve this. I don't want to end the stream without solving this. It's gonna be very depressing. It's gonna be very depressing. So let's fix this. So let's go to oh shit, man. Git ignore camera. Yeah, the book got instantly git ignored. Instantly. The book name is Cracking the Coding Interview. And no, I would not suggest this book. Do not buy this book. You don't need that crap anymore. There's far greater things you can learn than that crap. Just FYI. I bought this book many years ago, and I had the actual literally, guys, we're doing everything right. I swear to God, 100%, 100%. This makes absolutely no sense. We're 100% doing everything correct. You just blow my mind, man. That feature is my go-to, man. I do that a lot whenever I need to write a technical document, when I need to reflect about my own things that I do in life, about myself. I just hit the microphone and I just talk, and then I refine. If you're writing blog posts, whatever, it's always just do a rough thing of the things you have to say, then go back and refine. If you're doing it the other way around, you'll never write anything, because it's impossible. We get stuck on a singular words. Oh, this sentence sounds like this. This sentence sounds like, dude, that's the difference between me and my wife. When I'm cleaning the house, I do 90% of shit, and then I do 10% perfectly. She does the opposite, and that's why it takes her eight times longer to finish anything, right? Because she spends first 4 hours fiddling which oh yeah, couldn't load hooks from file, open config hooks.json, no such file or directory. Yeah, but does that make any sense? I don't think that. Okay, is this a new one maybe? Wait a minute. So we have man, what a waste of time. But to be honest, to my defense, it's a lot of questions, to be honest. So I'm more focusing on you guys than fixing this. It's fine. If I don't do it, I'll do this in probably 10 minutes off stream. It's just it's been so much chat today that it's just it's very difficult to yeah. So right now, at this point in time, the only thing I can believe is that, so 100% now, so maybe the way that our JSON is structured is wrong, or something like that. I have no freaking clue. No, I mean, yeah, but this is typical thing, right? It worked with the previous image, so there's something now with this image, or I'm just dumb, or both. Literally, we're doing everything correct. And actually, again, as I said, as I showed multiple times, right? We are, in fact, like, if we do hooks JSON, right? You can see we do have it here, right? So it's properly, here's the file, right? And here's the ID, deploy. we're getting that the hook is not found. Yeah, the previous one was a different image, right? Completely. Shit, man. Wait. Like, let's open the composer. Wait a minute. So I'm using, and for whatever reason, whenever I hit the webhook, we are getting 404, even though I can see that the file is properly bound inside the container, inside config hooks JSON. Based on the repository documentation you're issued, there are a few potential problems. First, let's verify the volume mounting and file path. According to the documentation, we need to mount the config directory and specify the correct hook's file path in the command. What the heck did it do? Yeah, it does have the hooks. Yep. So crazy, man. So crazy. Not found still. Jesus Christ, man. All right, you know what? I'll just nuke it all and then... If you're getting career advice, be mindful of the potential bias that the individual is giving you to the advice you have. Absolutely. Tech bro elitists will be who they are. Like that guy that told a standing room of people that they have to whiteboard perfect code or don't bother applying it was bad advice. Absolutely, man. I mean, in fact, I would go as further and say majority of the stuff you hear on Twitch and on YouTube, you shouldn't trust. I actually have a video on YouTube called... I have a video on YouTube called Influencer-Driven Development. I recorded it very long ago, and it speaks about this phenomena. Let me share it with you. It's this video. It's called Influencer-Driven Development, Programming Propaganda. And the video basically summarizes a lot of things that you're saying now, which is, yeah. And this is more typical, especially for people who do this full-time. So this is more, so streamers, content creators, not like I don't give a, like I stream a few times a year, right? So I actually don't have to tell you anything. If you don't like it, I don't care. People who do this full time, you have to lick each other's assholes because they live from the content, right? So people have to adjust to the content, and their opinions are very vague often, right? But that is the problem of content creation. A lot of stuff is said from a theoretical standpoint, especially those things that just come out tomorrow and you already have an opinion. As I always say in this stream, you should not allow yourself to have opinions on things which you haven't used in production. You can have a basic surface level opinions of something, but if you haven't used anything in production, your opinion is absolutely meaningless. It's useless, and it conveys nothing to any serious individual. If you come to me and you say, nodejs suck, or whatever, or Rust is great, and I ask you, what did you build in Rust? And you say nothing. Have you been working with Rust with multiple teams and stuff? And you say no. Then the opinion is absolutely arbitrary. It's as valuable as my mother said that, right? Or my grandmother, right? So, and this is how engineers used to be back in the past. Yes, they also sweaty basement dwellers existed, and you had hard opinionated people, but people didn't allow themselves to base their opinions out of nothing, out of the fart. You go and read a blog post, or you hear some asshole like me talking, and you already have an opinion. And you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, right? So the point is, no matter who you are and you're watching the stream, say senior, god mode, junior, whatever, try to be objective and try to truly be an engineer, not a programmer, not a coder. Try to develop your critical thinking, your problem solving skills, and be real, right? So don't allow yourself to you know, create these opinions based on the herd, based on my favorite streamer said this, so it must be true, right? It's like, it's sad that we came to a point as engineers that we even have to discuss this, because you would expect from an engineer to actually be exactly somebody who stands behind these things. Like if we are not going to be the thinkers, and then who will, right? So don't allow yourself to be influenced by others so much without context, without knowledge, etc., etc., etc. It's very dangerous and scary, right? Exactly. And be careful of people who sell you content for living. Because again, and I don't blame them, I don't criticize them, I'm just stating the fact that people who are paid and feeding their families by constantly spitting out content, they will spit out random shit all the time, because no human being on earth can cover 300 different technologies a year and have an idea of what they're talking about. There's simply not sufficient amount of memory and CPU in our brains to be able to provide production level experience-based arguments on so many things, right? Like you have these mentors on Udemy, and the guy covered 600 different types of things, right? Kubernetes, Docker, whatever. Like, it's like, dude, what are you, fucking alien, right? But what they actually do, they just create transcripts, blah, blah, blah. And don't take me wrong, some of these courses are amazing. But these courses are coming from a very theoretical standpoint, not from a standpoint of because how can they? If you're a full-time content creator, you're sitting home and reading blogs. You're not building software. And building software with real people, real deadlines, etc., 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 is a very different type of thing. That's why when you read clean code, pragmatic developer and stuff, you have a theoretical side and then reality here. Because programming and all of the programming, like any other industry, is all perfect in theory. But once you add human to it, once you add competence to it, the story shifts in a very, very different direction, right? So I would just say that you should be careful about content creation in general, right? Because it's a job of some people, and they have to sell you shit, right? Yes, absolutely. When you read clean code, when you read pragmatic programmer, a lot of these things are true to this day, and they will always be true. But keep in mind that what all of these books, every single one of them always omits from the equation is the human. Is the human that's depressed, human that's incompetent, human that hates his life, human that's sick, human that has sick kids, small team, deadlines. So all of these variables are the reality of work. And most of these variables, actually, none of them are ever part of these books. And then when you're inexperienced and you read these books, you create some sort of a concept in your head that programming somehow, the outcome of a programmer is a perfect world. But it never is. A programmer at Google, programmer at Facebook, programmer in a 10-man company almost equally sucks, right? And they suck because, not because they suck at code, they suck because every single organization that works in an agile way today your product manager wakes up and he wants this feature to look like this, and then tomorrow morning he wants this feature to look different. And that's the beauty of work, because we can, in an agile way, just change according to the business needs, customers, new insights, etc., etc., etc. And none of these books that sell you these 17 layers of abstraction, like clean architecture and shit, none of them actually tell you this. So there's reality and then there's theory. And theory is very different. Both are needed. But at the end of this journey, when you become experienced developer, you are kind of somewhere in between the theory and reality. And then the outcome of your work is a combination of both, right? But it's certainly not perfect code. Because when you watch these content creators and videos, Everything's perfect. Why are you not using this? If I did this software, I would have done it this way. Well, why the fuck haven't you done it then? You get what I mean? So in theory, it's so easy. It's so easy in theory. If I did this state management, I would have done this. Shut the fuck up, okay? Just shut the fuck up, bro. You know, it's like, it's ridiculous. It's hilarious. If I did this, it would be perfect software. Dude. Easy to sit on YouTube and theorize about shit, right? I mean, and it's like, because if you ever worked in a startup, right? Every single startup starts with minimum funds. Like, you have some angel investor, your parent has invested their savings in you, and you have 3 months to assemble some working thing, right? Then you succeed. It's like, fuck, actually we found an idea in this oversaturated market that works. Now maybe we can hire one person. Then you hire a poor guy who now has to maintain the code built by your grandfather, born in 1947, right? And then he has to build new features as well. And then this company runs with one more guy for 2 years. Now you have a company built on a foundation that's really bad. And this is the story of every single startup. This is fine. That's why we hire more people, smarter people, to make it better. I actually hate to use word legacy code. It's a little bit meaningless word, because in theory, all code is legacy. From the moment you write it, in theory, it's legacy, right? So, but the point is, this is in reality how a lot of software is built. It's built quickly. It's helped by friends. It's helped by people in India and Pakistan. You have $300 left. You find a guy somewhere in Bangladesh who comes and like tells you that he can do it in 3 days, and he never does it or shows up. Then you're, fuck, I'm out of money. So these are the situations in which software is built, and then it progresses over time. But there's always this little dose of shitty code in there, because again, try building a product and selling it to people. Try, doing these things, and you will see how hard it is. It's easy to theorize about code and stare at the same function for 3 days when you have infinite amount of time building your hello world apps, right? So that is just how it works. That is how it works. What the fuck? Absolutely. CFG, 100% agree with you, man. 100%. 100%. Pull access denied for... Oh, what the fuck? Why? There's nothing more expensive and annoying than people, right? So your goal is always, how can we make this cheaper? What? Did they, don't tell me that this is possible. I don't think this is possible, right? No chance. No way that they okay, I see what happened here. I see what happened here. Give me a moment. The cat lady. 7 months ago. Okay, let's try pulling it from here. It's already allocated. So, okay. Let's try to nuke that again. Ah, shit, sorry. That's the wrong thing. Ah. 3 months ago, I joined a startup which is seed phase, and now it's trying to secure a second round, but we have a lot of good projects, and we always try to make a code. Absolutely, man. And every single developer, no matter of their rank or experience, will always try to do that. But that doesn't mean that you're going to achieve it. A developer that has 2 months of experience working will also say that. They will also try to do the good practices and try to make things maintainable. This is implicit. It's inherently to how people operate. But your best might not be good enough, right? Why startups go for multiple founding rounds? It's because these are called hyper startups, right? This is not a matter of choice. It's almost a matter of a must, right? Because in a startup world, you need to grow very fast. So actually, the correct name is hyper startups, right? There's very few companies out there that can grow organically and succeed. Because for nearly every single idea you have someone else, right? That's also doing the same thing. So that's why you need more money. And that's unfortunately not, well, actually, it's a wrong word. It's not unfortunate. That's just how it is, right? What are your thoughts on IT ops systems in the age of AI? What the heck should someone really, if they're worked in the IT ops side for them? What are your thoughts on IT ops system admin network? I think honestly, I mean, I've been in 2008. I worked in so around 2007. I started working as a Cisco engineer. And I was also doing some of that work, right? I was maintaining the WebEx server. I was maintaining our radio server. I used to work in 2008. I worked for a company called SAT, and I basically as a network administrator for an ISP company, internet service provider. And I think since then to this day, IT ops is a role that forever is going to be needed, right? I don't think that we're going to always need networking engineers, system level engineers. I unfortunately don't have enough of insights past decade or so to give you any meaningful advice. So I'll rather just sustain myself from saying anything meaningful. But based on my experience, what I experienced before, and what my opinion is based on nothing, just based on an opinion, on a feeling, on an intuition, I do believe that we will always need these roles now. And I actually think most likely, especially engineers that do work close to hardware, I don't mean programming the hardware, but making sure that the hardware works. I do believe that there's always going to be a need for that, right? So I think Sergio, you, maybe one thing that I wouldn't say we disagree on is that everything that you're saying makes sense, but it makes sense from your own perspective, right? You're neglecting a lot of these things, right? You're saying, well, everybody should. You're not saying that literally, but as far what I can hear from your presentation is like you're saying, I mean, if you don't know this, you should do this. You're making a lot of assumptions. A lot of founders of companies are not technical. You're speaking as a developer, and then you're saying, well, from my development perspective, these things should be like this. A lot of companies, majority of companies, don't have technical startups at all. Sorry, technical founders. So not everybody can make great decisions up front because they simply don't have the resources. You have a lot of startups where you had 2 marketing guys who had a great idea, and then they hired a bunch of random developers, consultants, whatever, and the outcome of that was relative to how much money they invested into these agencies at the first place. Because even freelancers vary in quality a lot. You can pay a lot of money for some very known agencies in the world, and they can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions, right? Or you can find a 17 years old guy in India or Pakistan, right? That's going to do it for $100. So, so we cannot make an assumption what people should or should not know. If that was the case, nobody would ever make a mistake at the first place. Everybody would just build great things, but it doesn't work like that, right? Yeah, but that's not true. That's what I'm saying. It's not always the case that one... Why do you think that there's always a CTO? It doesn't work like that. There are many companies that start without a CTO, right? You hire there's a term for that. Actually, I don't know what the term is. But you hire a part-time consultant CTO who is going to be like, can I hire you for 4 hours to just kind of create some sort of a picture for me? Right? So again, you're assuming that every product starts with some certain shape and form, and it doesn't. Running a company doesn't choose the roles. It's like my mom can have a great idea, right? And she can maybe have some money and try to you know. What was it? No, that's not what I want. Fuck, man, what was it? My brain. I'm getting a little bit. A little bit tired, to be very frank with you. I also need to eat. But let's try to fix this. We probably need to p-kill this thing. Yeah, actually, I definitely don't want to do this. So why is this there? And Arcadia, hey buddy, good man, how are you? I'm just having fun here with the folks. We discussed so many different things. Very good, man. What about yourself? How are you? I mean, the no-code community always existed, right? I remember when I was younger using Macromedia Dreamweaver, Macromedia Fireworks, right? Again, that's exactly my point about programming, right? When you think about programming, forever we're trying to do one thing, right? When you think about programming, right? I don't know why people are actually... For me, the most shocking thing about people is the lack of understanding of history of programming. When you look at the programming starts, we wrote some assembly, right? And then we kind of move from that to like lower level languages like Pascal, COBOL, whatever, etc. Then C, and then after that C++, right? And then Java and C#, right? And then JavaScript, right? So when you look at this picture here, what does this tell you, right? This tells you that since the early days of programming, humankind wanted to make programming more accessible and less arbitrary. Nobody wants to write fucking assembly. That's terrible. C++, in my opinion, nobody should even be writing this. We shouldn't be figuring out how the CPU works. And one day, for sure, I tell you that, we will not anymore. These are not something... These are the things that we suck at human beings at, right? Like this level of detail we shouldn't care about. So now today we are on these types of abstractions, very high level languages, and then you have prompting today and natural level stuff, right? Natural languages, right? So this is nothing new. This has nothing to do with the AI or anything like that. With AI or without AI, more and more, decade by decade, we keep running away from low-level stuff because we want to build products, not write code. And this is how the world operates, right? So, and this is how it should operate. There's absolutely no value in writing code. It's completely invaluable, right? Nobody says, I want to buy your code. Everybody says, I want to buy your product. And if we can move away more and more from even like more abstract we get eventually, right? So this is not a matter of opinion. This is a factual thing. And I'm not even talking about AI. I'm talking about this is where we started, maybe even before that, with some binary stuff, right? Ones and zeros. And today we are here, right? And we can like that or not. Who gives a shit what we like? This is just a fact. And we are trying to humanize programming. And is it getting easier or not? It's hard to say, right? Because while programming is becoming more accessible, products are becoming more complex. There's more expectation. There's more, right? So building products is still very difficult. Building good products is still very, very hard. And with AI or not, developers will be needed always, because building good products is very hard. Building a shitty AI-generated login screen with a to-do list, that's easy with or without AI. So that's why AI adds very little to no value to that. Because the fact that somebody can today generate a login screen and something is completely valuable, because even before AI, a reasonable person could do that. But that type of product has no value, right? Building great products requires smart people, bunch of teams, bunch of thinking, domain knowledge, networking, understanding the user, understanding the problems which are dynamic. Problems that your user has today might not have next year. So you constantly have to evolve your product around today, around tomorrow, right? So it's not even about programming, right? Building great products will always be hard, and you will never just generate it. You will never just say, I have this problem, generate it, right? Because that makes no sense, because you don't know even, not every single problem has even a well-defined solution, right? These solutions are often partial, and then they kind of become more clear. But usually you clear them out when you get to interface with real people, and then they tell you, oh, actually, yeah, this does solve the problem for me. Another person is like, nah, this doesn't solve problem for me. So programming was always getting more accessible. It always will be getting more accessible, and it should become accessible to everybody, in my opinion. And it will become. Now, that's I've spent 20 years in this industry, so is that a hard thing to swallow for me? Yes, because I've spent million hours sitting on this chair. So of course, from my standpoint, will try to even oppose that. And you just don't want to accept these things because you are invested so much of this, right? So for us developers, for us who've been around for so long, we are having a hard time accepting these facts because it's hard. Like, fuck, man, I just spent so many years learning all of this shit, but that doesn't matter, man. That's just how the world works, and you start learning new shit, and then you start. That's what it is, right? Requirements engineering would be even clear. Yeah, but requirements are not always clear, right? That is the problem of people who expect that there's going to be a person out there who's going to give them a task, right? For way too long, programmers were working in a very wrong way. For very long, in some organizations, programmers were tools. You're actually literally not an engineer, you're a programmer. You're literally like a tool, and people like this will get replaced. If your main value at work is to write code, you come to work, somebody gives you a task and you do it and you go home, you're already useless for the most part. So that's not what engineering is. If you're going to work, you should try to be an engineer, try to be involved in your OKRs, try to solve the problems for users, try to understand the user, the perspective, your domain in which you're working, etc., etc., etc. Right? So these people who are scared that they're going to get replaced will 100% get replaced if you go to work and you're waiting for someone to put a linear card, Trello, Atlassian, whatever bullshit card. Oh, I have no cards left. Can I have more cards? That's literally a tool. That type of person is nothing but a tool because it gets some input, produces some output, and then waits for more input. It's like, I'm going to stay idle until there's this person here who gives me tasks, right? You need to integrate yourself more at your work to not just be a tool, because you are then very easily replaceable. Because if your main function at work is just taking in input and producing output, sooner or later you're gonna have a tool, a system like AI, or I mean, your employer can just say, I mean, if this guy is just input based, then how does it differ me hiring somebody else? I mean, it's the same shit. I'm gonna give this input. So you understand what I mean? If your level of influence doesn't go beyond just writing tasks and creating React components, or I don't know, building APIs, then think about it. It's just a plain logic, right? You have to integrate yourself to be more valuable. Involve yourself into why are you doing it? What are you doing? How? And OKR is for me personally probably the closest system where it makes team autonomous. So instead of your PM coming and telling you what you want to do, you have to be part of the solution. Your CTO, your CEO gives you a problem, and then you are not just the tool anymore. You now have to give your input. Fuck, how do we increase this number this quarter from X to Y? This is more efficient for developers. It's more engaging. You're not just a tool. You're part of the product now. So when you see some feature released, you say, shit, I actually contributed, and I made a decision along the rest of my team to do that feature and not this feature, right? So yes, people have always been being replaced by various types of things. At some point, it becomes a kitchen. No, not really. No, not really. I'm not not really. No, I don't think so. I think that that's sure. It's an argument that it's not invalid. I wouldn't say it's invalid, right? Sure, you can have, but that's why you have tech leads in teams. You have PMs, is to get the feedback and then make the decision. So I'm not saying that you are going to be a decision maker, but you can influence these decisions by providing input, and then at the end of the day, right, the team is going to provide a sufficient amount of input, and then you're going to come to some agreement. So this is not about roles, about who is leading or not. It's about, right? This is called Excelidro, but there's two of them. There's Excelidro and then there's Draw.io. So yeah, become more than just a tool. I guess to summarize that point, don't be a tool, because tools can get replaced. If this hammer, I have a hammer on my wall here, that hammer has one function, hitting the nail in the wall. If I throw this crap in the garbage now and buy a new hammer tomorrow, it's gonna be no different. It's gonna still be hitting that nail in the wall. So this type of tool is easily replaceable, right? Easily replaceable. But if I had a hammer that would come to me and say, hey man, how about we hit the nail in this wall in that room there and put this picture here, I would be like, fuck, this hammer is amazing. It just suggested something to me. So, right. Creative Dreamer, good evening. Thank you for coming. So that's my thought process there. Yeah, that's my thought process. Hammer AI, exactly. Please do not take things that I say as objectively true or false or anything. Just like the rest of you, I'm just sharing my experience, and I'm trying to, everything I say is genuine, and it's based on my personal experience, and I think this is the value that some of you might get. So I'm by no means suggesting I'm 100% right or wrong. That's not the point. I'm sharing my insights, and that's the beauty of creating communities like this, is that I don't want to theorize about things. I don't want to say shit out of the books. What has worked for me, also as a tech lead, I work as a tech lead, and I was a team lead before as well. These types of things, I see them working with people. People like to have autonomy. People like to have, a lot of developers, especially who haven't worked with these types of systems, they're scared a little bit of OKRs, because you are also responsible, your whole team is responsible for the outcomes as well. But there's nothing more inviting, more challenging, more fulfilling than being more than just a person that writes code. Being a person that makes these decisions, brainstorms with your team, tries to find solutions. For me as an engineer, that is why I go to work. If you think that I go to work to write React components or build APIs, I don't care 1%. Been doing that for 20 years, the same shit over and over again. No matter the framework, the library, the language, it's always the same crap, right? You can write your own framework or whatever. You're always so at one point in your career, you're not gonna be driven by, oh, I wrote another endpoint. This is a groundbreaking discovery, right? But when you build product that, for example, where I work at Dream Data, we have unicorn customers now and shit like that. Sometimes I jump on a call with LinkedIn people. Sometimes I talk to whatever. Like, that is super fulfilling, knowing that I'm part of the team that's building software used at global corporations, right? That's the motivation for me. Not, oh, I'm gonna write a React table, right? Wow, mind-blowing. How will you face technical challenges such as joining a company and not knowing the code base or facing problems that you never saw before? I mean, whenever you join any company, you don't know the code base. So that's logical, and nobody should expect you to know the code base. How will you know the code base if you've never seen it before, right? So you just start, you obviously, I mean, hopefully the company has solid onboarding, right? And I mean, every time when you hire a new person, that person is liability for at least 3 months. So of course, some people are very quick. Some more experienced people will get onboarded faster. But typically, every organization that's serious enough knows that when we hire a new person, that person is going to be a cost until they're onboarded and until they have sufficient amount of confidence to push features, right? But your goal as a tech lead, team lead, or organization is to try to get a new person to do a first commit as quickly as possible. When I hire for my team, I typically try to make people do the commit the first day, just to show them that the process is amazing. Because we do, in my team, code reviews are smooth like butter. I don't encourage my developers to discuss things in commits, in commit messages. I have few rules which work really well. Like if I see a conversation of 30 messages on a PR, that should have been a conversation, right? So we simply, like, if there's some, not disagreement, if there's a bunch of opinions, just jump on a call or sit next to each other in the office and solve it, right? So there's a lot of course, there's a million things we can talk about. So I'm actually diverging a little bit, talking about too many things. But when it comes to onboarding and your question, like, you should not be expected to, I mean, you just joined the company, so. Yeah, but this is, look, this tool type of thing that I spoke about, this is not about, like, you do whatever you want. This is not about it. It's just a logical type of thing to think about. So if I can even trigger some of you to leave the stream and even have this in your mind, I have succeeded with what I wanted, right? But just ask the logical question, right? Like, this bottle has one function only. Well, of course, I can hit someone with it as well, but this bottle is easily replaceable. I can go and buy the same bottle tomorrow. It's gonna solve the same problem. I drink water from it, right? And if you try to observe yourself as an object and not a person, you are like if you're just functioning in one way, if you're just providing one thing, then you could say that you're not utilizing yourself well enough and your organization is not utilizing you well enough, right? Like in the Inspired book written by Marty Kagan, right? It's one of the best books in Silicon Valley on building products. Marty says that if you're using developers for only writing code, you're not even utilizing the 50% of their abilities, right? So if your organization is only using you to scribble some web app, right, or some system level bullshit, then they are failing. It's not you that's failing. Well, you're failing as well because they're not getting the best out of you. You're not learning as much as you can, and they're not getting the most value of it by paying you, right? So this is just how it is. But trust me when I tell you this, more you can integrate yourself and become integral part of your team, less likely is that they're going to get rid of you or you're going to be simply harder to replace. So this is, I think, objectively true about any job, right? So you can also think about it from that perspective. Like, you can literally say, how can I make myself more useful and less likely to easily be replaced, right? And that is the thing. Do more than just your hard skills, right? Contribute to the culture, contribute to the planning, etc., right? Absolutely. Absolutely it does. And you will have more motivation to go to work because you will look forward to more things than just building APIs and decorating buttons with CSS, right? That's why I go to work. It has very little to do with code anymore, and I'm sure many of you, especially if you're junior, if you're inexperienced, you will see this in time, that you might be mind blown by this library, this language, this service, this thing, that thing, but at one point in time you're gonna see most of these patterns. They're all repeatable. All of these technologies and languages that come out, there's in some shape or form the continuity of the previous thing, and you will simply seek for more motivation than just, oh, I'm using a svelte.js. Wow, I'm storing state almost in the same way as I did 20 previous things, right? So sooner or later, you're gonna simply, yeah. Absolutely, CFG. I mean, here we're talking about the AI, right? So here we're talking not just the AI, but the conversation started like, will AI replace people, right? So maybe we should kind of agree on the definitions before we open up the subject. But like the point is, no matter what, you're absolutely right that if a person does something, it's just the question is, what might be sufficient for one to do today might not be sufficient anymore to do that tomorrow, right? So that is the thing, because like we can also see highly oversaturated market of developers like we've never seen before in this industry, right? There's a lot of junior developers having a very hard time even getting an interview, let alone getting a job, right? And as the circumstances change, our job evolves in a different way. I have a YouTube video on my YouTube channel called Death of a Software Engineer and Rise of a Product Engineer. So you're absolutely right that if you have a good programmer who was doing programmer tasks well, there's no reason to replace him or her. Absolutely, in that organization. But that is changing, right? So I guess the skills that are going to define our role are simply becoming something a little bit different, right? So we're going to become, I'm 100% certain of it because I'm seeing it already, we're going to be called one day product developers. I made this prediction long ago and I think it's going to right? We're going to be called product developers, and we're going to utilize programming skills and various other tools to build products, right? But the emphasis from software, the software as the keyword, as the word is kind of, or the code itself is losing in value and is becoming less valuable, right? So coders is going to become like, coder, really? Are you writing that code manually, really, right? So of course we will never replace that, but in my prediction is we're going to simply be more overall product developers than emphasizing the code, right? That's my take. We'll see in time. Oh, yeah. That's just how it is. Okay. Any other interesting remarks? Any other interesting questions? I really enjoy it. It's quite awesome. Anything else? Anything else? More architects than devs? Could be. That's CFG. I believe that potentially is my prediction. Yeah. I think you're gonna have maybe more, like, for example, I can see me as a tech lead, I'm getting a lot of offers on LinkedIn now to be a head of engineering and stuff like that. So I think the value of technical leads and team leads is going to increase a lot, because you're going to have a person that has a very good picture and experience of the systems and how they're built, And then the detail of a single developer is going to become less important because the developers are going to be highly empowered by the AI and stuff. They will be able to, so you're going to have more person who observe and review and validate, and individual skills. If you have solid architect in the team, so individual skills are going to be less valuable coding wise. So you're going to be more prone to hire well-spoken thinkers and people with social skills for the by making a little bit of sacrifice on their technical skills, because you will want to make teams that actually can produce good results and be empowered by AI. But you will still need people who know programming really good, so they actually validate this garbage that the LLMs are producing. Because keep in mind, right, LLMs are still about statistics, so they're not reasoning. They don't understand things. It's literally matching vectors and shit like that, right? Absolutely. Architects always existed. It's just the thing is, individual skills of an individual developer is probably gonna be less valuable, right? Because you can just produce so much code by the AI, right? And that's fine, right? I mean, I'm actually very happy with where we're going as a community. It's just as I always say, right? Nobody should fear these things, right? Let's just make sure that we don't make the same mistakes as generations before us. You remember these guys who, when the calculator came out, they were protesting, our kids are going to be dumb if they start using calculators, right? It's just embrace the change, and as long as you go with the change and get better and evolve every day, there's really nothing to fear, right? That's just how it is. Do you have any tips for getting, to be very honest, like, to get to any level of any industry, sports, whatever, there's no shortcuts. I can see, one thing that I admire and despise about the new generation now, it's both love and hate at the same time, is that the absolute lack of patience, but on the other hand, the absolute necessity to find hacks to get somewhere closer. So I can see a lot of, that's why these content creators are shitting themselves for money, because you have courses such as become a programmer in 3 weeks and stuff. This is impossible, man. And these things are so well formulated because it's so unimaginable for a person is like, fuck, I'm gonna buy this course and in 3 weeks. He's like, but you will not, man. Like, it sounds, if something in life sounds too good to be true, then it's not good, it's not true, right? It's simply not true. Just remember this, it's a very basic thing. It's a very basic fact. If something sounds too good to be true, it's not true. It never is. So every single thing in life requires a lot of work. With AI, without AI, it doesn't really matter, right? You can use your AI and it will explain you things, but there's just so much that a human being can consume in a single day. There's so many things you can understand. There's so many things. And sure, you can find ways to speed the process up. You can pay for a mentor. You can use AI. But there's so many things to learn. And it's just the journey that everybody has to go through, right? If programming was learnable in 3 weeks, then we would have 1 billion programmers, not 20 million, right? So a lot of these things are super nice to hear, and a lot of people fall for these things because who the fuck wouldn't want to become a chemist, become a doctor in 3 weeks? Like, come on, man. Show some respect, right? It's just yeah, that's capitalism, man. We're all trying to sell something to each other at every point in time, right? So and that's how it is. That's how it is. Yeah, nothing great happens overnight. That's just how it is. I mean, anyone can be a programmer with AI. Sure, I mean, if they say that, great for them, man. Yes, let me know when they find work. Let me know when they find a job with these DeepSeek skills of theirs. but all roads will eventually. Exactly. All right, fellas. Well, this was awesome. It's an awesome stream. It's been 3 hours and 3.5 hours. I had enough. I have to go to work tomorrow and a lot of other applications. And I'm going to go and spend at least a few more minutes with my son and my wife. He's going to go to bed in around 30 minutes. So I wanna become a programmer in 7 seconds and make $6 billion a day. Something like that, yeah. I enjoy your LinkedIn comments too. Awesome, and thank you. I haven't written any recently, but I'm trying to. Yeah, guys, thank you very much. If you have a minute, please sign up on the platform that I'm building sometimes in the stream. I would really appreciate it. At least book your name or book your slug so you have it. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for the nice discussions, for being kind and not trolling and being kind to others. That's the community we want to create here. And I'm happy that I've spent some time sharing my insights. As I always say, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I try to share my real insights from my everyday work and everyday life. And some of it might be fully true for me. It might not be true for you. But most of all, what I want people to get out of the stream, think with your own mind, your own brain, and try to question things that you hear. That's how you're going to become a good engineer overall, not just a coder. And yeah, I wish you well. And yeah, let's round up. I wish you guys all the best, and I'll see you another time. Okay, everybody. Bye-bye.